Chapter 121. Chi Observation Skill _2. The hunter-born Chinsansi was truly curious. I don't know. Bai Thingji shook his head. Let's keep going. The group continued to traverse mountains and valleys. Chun Sansi's proficiency in tracking and hiding kept climbing. As he observed his surroundings, they became clearer and clearer. He could see not only hair but eventually, he even felt that he could see inside the bodies of the creatures around him. A moment of daze. Panel floated up. Tracking and hiding, great success. Progress. Cannot be further improved. Utility. Chi Observation Skill. Chi Observation Skill. Observe the chi of heaven, earth, and humans, making it impossible to hide. In an inexplicable way, Chun Sansi felt a mysterious power flooding into his body, finally converging in his eyes. When he looked at the world again, he saw that everything had a certain chi. The gray rabbits in the snow, the hawks flying overhead, the black bears hibernating in tree hollows, the ground squirrels hiding in their caves, and so on, including people. This chi seemed very ethereal on Sun Buki but very vibrant on Bai Thingji, and the strongest on himself. Perhaps this has to do with one's cultivation stage. Chun Sansi then looked at the dead wolf and saw that its chi was markedly different from all other creatures or people. It was blood red. Although the color was faint, it carried a strange feeling. What about exotic beasts? What does the chi of an exotic beast look like? What's the principle behind this chi observation skill, and why does everyone have a chi? Even the ground has it. Looking at the ground, Chun Sansi could see a medley of differing chi. Is the reason why people can cultivate martial arts and break the limits of their bodies related to this chi? He immediately activated his breathing skill. Indeed, supplemented by pile work, the breathing skill could absorb the mixed chi between heaven and earth into the body, then use it to transform the body. So that's how it is. The utility of chi observation skill wasn't limited to this alone. Within a certain range, Chun Sansi could detect the chi of all living beings, which naturally prevented anyone from hiding and launching a surprise attack, and also enabled him to trace their whereabouts. He truly took tracking and hiding to the extreme. Unfortunately, it couldn't be improved anymore. Sansi, what are you looking at? Sun Buki waved his hand in front of him. Come on, we still have a long way to go, right? Chun Sansi came back to his senses and continued on with the two others. On the way, he noticed a flicker of chi to the right. Given the vastness of the Luotian mountain range, which could sustain countless people, it was only natural that they were not the only ones hunting on the mountain. It's right ahead. Around dusk, Bai Thingji stopped. Recently, I saw a saber-toothed tiger hunting a white deer in this area, but I don't know exactly where its den is. We'll have to look together. I'm afraid. That's enough. Chun Sansi's eyes were sharp like lightning. He saw all the chi around him within a range of 200 steps, basically immune to any surprise attacks. Besides that, effects like insight and light as a feather that he had before didn't disappear, but instead became stronger. He quickly located the hunting range of the saber-toothed tiger through the traces left by the frightened and fleeing wildlife, leading him to find a not-so-hidden cave. Wait a minute. Chun Sansi crouched down in the nearby jungle. A saber-toothed tiger is different from an ordinary big worm. It's an extremely fierce exotic beast, whose fighting power is comparable to a refining organ martial artist. As a hunter with professional aptitude, he planned to first lure the saber-toothed tiger out with other prey. Sir, let me take the lead for you. But unexpectedly, Bai Thingji took the broadsword from his back and charged headfirst into the tiger's den, unstoppable. Roar! What followed was a roar and the noise of a fight that sent chills down one's spine. This beast is extremely tough. Bai Thingji emerged frantically from the depths of the cave, his clothes torn to shreds, clearly indicating a close combat with the saber-toothed tiger, and that he had managed to resist a few blows with his Vajra body. Roar! Another tiger roar, and a massive shadow rushed out of the depths of the cave. What a beast! This exotic beast tiger, by rough estimates, stood 8 feet tall with a body length of 1.5 zhang. Its gaping mouth exposed 2 sharp fangs, resembling 2 long swords sticking out. The claws on its forelimbs were like blades forged from steel, even gleaming with a red light in the sunset. Its sheer size was one thing, but its explosive speed was terrifying, reaching the level of small achievement in refining internal. The tiger could leap over 10 zhang in one bound, and its razor-sharp claws rained down on by Thingji's back. Crash! The sound of screeching metal friction echoed as his Vajra body was fully employed. Bai Thingji flew several zhang forward and crashed into the jungle. Whiz, whiz, whiz! Sun Buki desperately shot arrows, and finally, 2 hit their mark, but neither struck a vital point, only further enraging the saber-toothed tiger. Roar, roar, roar! Blinded by rage, the tiger pounced towards its prey from up the slope, descending like an unstoppable war deity from the skies. Boom! Until a cannon-like arrow accurately penetrated its heart. The war deity suddenly fell, crashing straight down from the sky and rolling several times before coming to a stop. A 50-stone bow. Beasts can't compare to humans. If they lack intelligence and don't know to dodge, one arrow is usually enough to spell their imminent death. Indeed powerful. Chen Sansi was taken aback. Even after taking an arrow to the heart, the saber-toothed tiger hadn't died instantly. It lay there, struggling to rise, showing a terrifying will to live. Boom, boom, boom. Without hesitation, he quickly shot 2 more arrows to ultimately end the life of the tiger. Chapter 122. Qi Observation Skill _3. Excellent archery. Bai Thingji stood up covered in dust, full of admiration. To hit a saber-toothed tiger's heart with an arrow at such speed, what level of archery must that be? Within 300 steps, Shancher can shoot through poplars and willows. Incredibly skilled indeed. Seeing nothing strange, Sun Buki said, "My archery was personally taught by him." Bai Thingji couldn't help but chuckle. Chen Sansi paid no attention to the two, instead walking towards the massive corpse of the saber-toothed tiger, deep in thought. He had seen it clearly just now. The energy on the saber-toothed tiger was a pale blue. How did it absorb such blue energy? The various energies in this world must be related to the immortal trace. Unfortunately, he was unable to understand it at the moment. Probably very few in the world could know. Supervisor Sun, who was above Martial Saint in realm, might have studied energy and even needed to understand and use different energies to break through above Martial Saint. What kind of energy was in Supervisor Sun's body? So far, Chen Sansi hadn't seen him at all. But it would be soon. During the selected point assessment, not only the supervisors but also the governor, the army supervisors, and many prestigious figures from the Liangzhou army would watch. It said some would even find sons-in-law for their daughters. Just like the nobility in the capital city liked to choose sons-in-law from among the top scholars. Mr. Chen, there are still poisonous beasts. Chen Sansi had intended to move the saber-toothed tiger's corpse when Bai Thingji's voice rang in his ear again. He also noticed the movement in the eastern woods. It was a small monkey, brown all over except for a tuft of white hair on its head, with blood-red eyes and covered in blood, severely wounded. When it arrived in front of them, it stumbled and fell to the ground, dead. Where did this little creature come from? Bai Thingji went over to check. How did it get wounded? Not good, let's go. Sun Buki warned loudly. It's a young soldier monkey. These monkeys imitate humans by using weapons. They are numerous in the Luotian Mountains and vary in strength. They have an extremely strong sense of retaliation at critical moments. No matter who kills their young, they will band together for revenge. There's no telling how many martial artists who went hunting in the mountains have been surrounded and killed by them. Later, after these soldier monkeys became poisoned, they became poisonous beasts, and nobody wanted to provoke them anymore. Oh. Before he finished speaking, monkey howls enveloped them from all sides. One by one, the long-armed monkeys were either running or swinging through the treetops. In a few breaths, they densely blocked the way out, each wielding all kinds of weapons, some old, some new, some broken, and some fine. There was no telling how many martial artists who went into the mountains had died at their hands. The leader among them was an old white-haired monkey, holding a mo blade. Without exception, all of them had blood-red energy flowing within their bodies. The energy in the old white-haired monkey was the most vigorous. Its strength was probably even a notch higher than the saber-toothed tiger's. Most importantly, it seemed to have judgment and thought. At this moment, it looked at the dead young monkey on the ground, then glared at the people with bared teeth, swinging the blade furiously. Ow! A countless number of monkeys attacked the group from all directions. Damn it! Anywhere else this little monkey could have died. Why did it have to die right in front of us? Sun Buki's face looked grim. And this area isn't a soldier monkey's habitat. How did they get here? What else could it be? It was done intentionally by someone. Chan Sansi noticed a flash of energy and also heard the rustling in the dense forest. But his view was blocked, so he couldn't see who it was. Stronger than my energy. It must be great success of refining. It was them. Princely air. In Hanwen hid behind a tree, surreptitiously watching the surrounded group, taking pleasure in their misfortune and saying, "They have disrespected you time and again, especially that by fellow. Teach them a lesson." They judged from the direction the few had left that they were heading up the mountain to hunt, so they harbored ulterior motives. Since private feuds weren't allowed within the 8 camps, they decided to take action outside. Moreover, they didn't act directly but instead exploited the habits of the poisonous beasts. That way, even if something went wrong, no one would be able to link it back to them. Well, that Chun Sansi is a member of the Yen party anyway. There's no need to try to win him over. Chao Fan said gravely, "It's no issue if the others die, but Sun Buki is here too. There won't be any trouble, will there? The princely heir can rest assured." In Hanwen said, "We are watching over here. If there really is any trouble, it isn't too late to go save Sun Buki then." "Brother Een, aren't you being a bit too harsh?" With furrowed brows and caution, Tang Inca advised. "They were disrespectful to the princely heir, but their actions don't warrant death, do they?" "You Tang," In Hanwen scolded in a hushed voice. "We are in this together. I'm actually worried." When Shosher took over the conversation, saying, "Are these soldier apes enough to kill them all?" Crouching, In Hanwen said, "Who knows? Let's take this opportunity to test what they are capable of." "Hey!" They watched as the small group began to fight with the soldier apes. Unable to watch any longer, Tang Inca grabbed his sword and ran out shouting, "Brother Bu Chi, I'm coming to help you." "Tang, do you want to die?" When Shosher intended to grab him, but it was already too late. "Let him go. He wouldn't dare reveal that it was our plan." In Hanwen cursed. "His father is just a fence-sitter in the court, and he is no better. We'll deal with him harshly later. It'd be best if he just died here." All 3 of them were shocked by the scene unfolding before their eyes. Chan Sansi, facing the encirclement of the soldier apes, plucked his bowstring like thunder, and with every arrow shot, a soldier ape fell to the ground. In the time it took to drink a cup of tea, he had shot more than 30 soldier apes. Even the old ape that served as their commander could only block 5 arrows with its weapon before an arrow pierced its head. That bow over 30 power, Chao Fan recognized. How can this man's archery be so outstanding? The princely heir need not worry. The selected point doesn't test archery, after all. Archery is of little use to high-realm martial artists. Clenching his fist, In Hanwen said, "It's just infuriating that we can't rely on these beasts anymore. Then let's get out of here quickly." When Shosher grew anxious, "If they find out and report us to the governor mansion, Sun Xiangzong won't show any consideration for our status. Let's go. Be careful." As they got to their feet to leave, Chen Sansi fired another arrow. On the surface, it seemed aimed at a soldier ape, but in reality it was directed at them. Bang! The arrow shot through the trunk of the tree and then thunderously pierced through In Hanwen's shoulder. Had it been off by just an inch, it would have hit the heart. "Ah! Shut up!" Chao Fan covered his mouth so he couldn't scream, then carried him and left. He did it on purpose. After running for about 2 miles, In Hanwen finally couldn't hold back and began to howl. Princely heir, he dared to shoot me. If he hadn't been hidden behind the tree, out of the shooter's line of sight, wouldn't he be dead on the spot? What can we do about it? With gritted teeth, Chow Fan said, who suggested this underhanded idea that we can't be seen with? When the selection competition begins, we'll teach him a lesson at the martial arts arena. I'm afraid I won't be able to participate in the selection. In Hanwen screamed incessantly. Before the selection had even started, they were forced to lose one person and couldn't make a claim. They had to swallow this bitter loss in silence. Chapter 123, Commanding Soldiers Breakthrough. How can one say there are no clothes? Is it over? Just as Tang Inca had slain a poisonous beast with his sword, he saw the leader, an old ape, pierced by several arrows and collapsing from the tree. The rest of the ordinary soldier apes were wiped out completely. Not a single one escaped. You're lucky to be alive. Chun Sansi watched the direction in which the princely heir and the others had left, his gaze cold as ice. Ever since arriving in Liangzhou, he had tried not to offend anyone, giving proper respect where due and offering toasts when appropriate, thoroughly abiding by the rules. But the trees want to stay quiet while the wind keeps blowing. He just wanted to test quietly, hoping to get a good ranking and selected point, but this group had to come looking just to make trouble for him. And some even harbored the intention of taking their lives. There really was no more patience left. It wasn't just because of Bai Thingji. It was also because of Yen Chongqing. In the court as an official, what mattered was taking sides. Even if he wished otherwise, he would inevitably be associated with the Yen party to some degree and would naturally be targeted by the other faction. And the higher the office one holds, the more one has to show allegiance. Holding such an office is genuinely unfulfilling. That arrow Chun Sansi had just shot was loosed at random. It hit the target by the sound of it, but what a pity it didn't hit a vital spot, leaving the bastard alive. Things had come to this point. There was no need to keep backing down anymore. After all, in the next selected point, offense would be given anyway. He certainly couldn't abandon the chance for the princely heir's true inheritance just because he feared offending people. And this time they had attacked first. With the rules of the governor mansion in place, they could only pretend nothing happened outwardly. That arrow, no matter what, has been taken for free. It would have been a waste not to shoot it. Brother Tang. Sun Buki stabbed a soldier ape to death and looked at the newly joined young master. What are you doing here? Nothing. Tang Inca sheathed his sword. I came up to the mountain to hunt, heard some noise and came over to check it out. I saw you were being ambushed by poisonous beasts and wanted to help, but it seems you didn't need me. He was somewhat regretful. This young Mr. Chen's archery was really somewhat exaggerated. He had taken out all those soldier apes so quickly and efficiently. If he had known, he wouldn't have come out to get involved. You came hunting alone? Even Bai Thingji sensed something was not right. That princely son or whatever, is he also following along? Is it him who's set us up? As he spoke, he carried his knife to look around nearby but failed to find anyone. No. Tang Inca hurriedly explained. It has nothing to do with the princely heir and the others. I really did come up the mountain alone. Brother Tang, what are you afraid of? Sun Buki said through clenched teeth. I will talk to my father when I get back, to cancel their selected point qualifications. Bu Qi, you shouldn't make false accusations. Tang Inca's expression became serious, and he spoke loudly. The princely heir and the others really aren't here. I really was just passing by. Since you all are okay, I will take my leave first. After saying that, he turned to leave, and when he passed by Chun Sansi, he stopped to give a fist salute, then quickly disappeared into the woods. He's the son of the Minister of Rights, Sun Buki introduced. Brother Tang is different from the princely heir and the others. He's not a bad person. It's just that being born in the capital city, he couldn't help but be influenced by them, or else his father would also be implicated. Chun Sansi naturally wouldn't care about this. After all, he had stood up and offered them help. Not all children of government officials were of the same stripe. All these were just interludes. The main thing was that the goal of hunting exotic beasts was achieved. The Luotian mountain range did indeed have abundant resources. Just one day up the mountain and he effortlessly hunted an exotic beast, not like the resource-scarce Tiger Head Mountain where they had to stir up the whole city searching for a white deer, nearly failing to find it with hundreds of people. It seemed he still couldn't avoid heading up the mountains frequently in the near future. Consider it archery practice. Skill, archery, great success. Progress, 750/2000. After achieving great success in tracking and concealment, the chi observation skill that followed was beyond any earthly technique. What effects could it have after enhancing archery to great success and reaching the next breakthrough? Chun Sansi stood in a high spot, surveying the terrain, observing which mountain peak seemed more likely to be inhabited by exotic beasts, so as to narrow the search scope for his next trip to the mountains. Suddenly, he saw a surge of dense black chi billowing and raging in the deepest part of the mountain range, as if a black sea was hidden deep in the mountain. Before Chun Sansi had a chance to take a closer look, the black chi disappeared without a trace, and he couldn't tell if it really vanished or if it was just too far away to see. After all, his chi observation skill only had a range of about 200 steps, and the direction from which the black chi emerged was likely the deepest and core area of the Luotian mountain range. Shansher, that place is off limits. Sun Buki emphasized. Beyond 30 layers of mountains, it's the most dangerous place in the whole Luotian mountain range. It's almost entirely filled with poisonous beasts, and some are even more terrifying than martial artists in the profound image realm, nearly like the mythical creatures from legends. Chun Sansi remembered hearing about a giant python that was hundreds of zhang long. Could it be that the black chi was emitted by the python? Unlikely. That black chi clearly seemed to emanate from the earth. The black chi and the blood chi from the poisonous beasts seemed somewhat similar, but it was obviously much more powerful. In comparison, the blood chi seemed like a diluted version of the black chi. Could the emergence of numerous poisonous beasts in the Luotian mountain range over the last 20 years be a result of being influenced by the black chi? There are such formidable poisonous beasts? Bai Thingji found it hard to believe. After all, the Xuanxiang realm was just a step away from martial saint, basically considered elite combat power among humans. There might be even more powerful ones. Sun Buki said seriously, it's best not to rush into the Xuanxiang realm. Besides, there are not many exotic beasts inside. Mostly there are poisonous beasts, from which you can't gain any benefits. It was certainly too peculiar. Chun Sansi fell into deep thought. It seemed the Emperor Longqing's order to plant spiritual grain throughout the country was a matter of the last 20 years or so. Could there be some connection? Otherwise, why hadn't there been talk of tribute before? Considering the increasing number of martial saints and the emergence of existences above martial saints, it sounded like the entire world was undergoing changes. Simply put, their cultivation was too low grade. They weren't on a level that would affect them personally, so they were completely unaware. When all is said and done, still too weak. If he were in existence above martial saints, he'd be qualified to pursue such immortal traces. For now, it was best to focus on cultivating, sort out the selected point matters, and not be overly ambitious. Let's go down the mountain. Chun Sansi came down from the mountain peak, picked up the saber-toothed tiger, and led the two others back through the night. When he asked if they wanted to share some of the meat, they both refused outright. General, how could I have the face to accept? Bai Thingji said with guilt. Even though I led the way, in the end, it was Mr. Chun who found the cave and personally shot the beast. I hardly provided any help. Besides, about the matter with the soldier monkey, it was I who implicated Mr. Chun. If Mr. Chun insists on giving me part of the tiger meat, I'd rather die from a head injury. I've got even less to say. Sun Buki stated. The saber-toothed tiger is a supplement for refining organ martial artists, and I only excel in bone strengthening skill, so it's useless in my hands. All right then. Chun Sansi didn't insist unnecessarily. He indeed needed the tiger meat to enhance his cultivation. The group accelerated their pace and emerged from the Luotian mountain range after daybreak. Chen Sun was already waiting for a long time. Chun Sansi carried the saber-toothed tiger, mounted his horse, and returned to the estate ahead of schedule. Si Qin and Mo Hua had gotten up early to work. When they came out to open the door, they were frightened by the huge bloodied beast with protruding fangs like swords, scampering to hide far away. In the courtyard, Chun Sansi dissected the saber-toothed tiger with his Zhenyu sword. Just the heart alone was enough for 2 or 3 meals, not to mention the other highly nutritious parts. For the next half a month, he wouldn't have to worry at all. After eating the half-cooked tiger heart boiled in water, he suddenly felt a strong killing intent rising in his heart. Along with the refining organ treasure medicine and spiritual grain, the potent effects of these 3 elements intertwined within his body, making it feel like it was about to burst open. It was only when he took up his reed-long spear and practiced his spear technique that he gradually felt more at ease. Once he started practicing, he lost track of day and night, tirelessly continuing. For 8 consecutive days, Chun Sansi spent every morning training battle formations in the military camp, practicing martial arts from the afternoon into the late night. Sleeping no more than 2 hours a day, eating hastily with a few bites of saber-toothed tiger meat. As long as training didn't kill him, he pushed himself to the limit. With the skill of Qi observation, he could see that during his practice, he continually absorbed the chaotic energy of the world. All kinds of energies were involved, except for the sky-blue energy from within exotic beasts. Moreover, he couldn't control what kind of energy he absorbed. It was more of an indiscriminate collection.
Cultivation technique, Unity Spear technique, expert.
Progress. 910/1000. Just a little bit left. As soon as daylight breaks, the selected point examination will officially begin. Luckily, the first day doesn't require combat. By tomorrow or the day after, I'll surely break through to small achievement. Skill. Commanding soldiers, small achievement. Progress. 0/2000. Utility. Mainstay, training soldiers skillfully. How can it be said I have no clothes? How can it be said I have no clothes? On the battlefield, soldiers share a life and death unity. Morale greatly increases. Formations are executed to their ultimate potential. Overall combat power increases by more than 30%. Unity in life and death. Combat power increases by 30%. Don't underestimate 30%. It could compensate for a disparity in realms to some extent. On the actual battlefield, the effects would likely be shockingly significant, not to mention that his troops could hold formation till death. Chun Sansi was fully confident about the first battle formation assessment. No matter how the competition went, he definitely wouldn't be eliminated. Even if he didn't secure the champion leader position, he would at least be Class A. Old Su has improved again. Chun Sansi marveled. Even just leaving things as they were, proficiency was rapidly improving lately. All thanks to Su Wenkai. He heard that the old scholar had been working tirelessly for the assessments lately. Who would have thought he'd discover such talent in Piyang County? Leaving aside other uses, the fact that idle proficiency could enhance his skill in commanding soldiers made it incomparable to others. Brother sure. Gu Xinlan personally dressed him. Then along with Si Qin and Mo Hua, they saw him off, almost as if they were family seeing off someone to a college entrance examination. In fact, the selected point was akin to martial examination. After 5 days of assessments, it would determine how many resources each person could receive, how fast one will be promoted, and most importantly, whether one will secure the top position and become the final true disciple of Sun Xiangzong. Once outside the Chun mansion, Chun Sansi whistled, and Chen soon arrived in response. He mounted his horse and galloped straight to the 8 camps. Chapter 124. The life and death of the world rests on one person. In recent days, the city has been under martial law, with wanted posters plastered everywhere. It is said that many high-realm martial artists from the sects have died. Overnight, Tongshan sect and Luoxia manor of Liangzhou's 7 major sects each lost 5 or 6 true disciples, in addition to several dozen inner sect disciples, including one talented individual with the Bear Gang's mighty physique. With such a commotion, astonishingly, not a single eyewitness has come forward. After their deaths, each of their heart blood was taken, naturally leading to the assumption that it was the work of the witch god sect. That shouldn't be the case. Chen Sansi was puzzled. To invade the depths of two sects at the same time and kill so many indicates that the witch god sect must be a group, not an individual. But this is Liangzhou, home to the 8 camps and Sun Xiangzong. For a large number of witch god sect followers to hide, there must be a haven for them. It's impossible that they could be forever elusive. Even Xiang Tingchun was able to find clues from the Golden Bell Temple previously. It doesn't make sense. Unless the witch god sect has some special method. Chen Sansi wasn't just speculating aimlessly. Once he took up his post at the 8 camps, he was highly likely to participate in hunting down the witch god sect. And he was eager to learn from the higher-ranking witch god sect followers about the whereabouts of the immortal treasure equipment, as well as the purpose of the previous blood sacrifice, and of what use it was to kill martial artists. The black chi in the mountains, could it be related to the witch god sect? Sigh. Lost in thoughts, Chen Sansi reached the entrance of the garrisoned inner city and dismounted his horse. Qian soon went off to play on his own steed. Just like a house dog let loose outside that reliably returns home for meals, except that he could be called back at any moment, ensuring there was always a horse to ride when needed. Within the military city at the martial arts arena, the selected spear generals had mostly arrived, including Chao Fan, Yin Hanwen, and others. However, Fang Qingyun announced that Yin Hanwen had given up on the selected point examination and forfeited by default. Brother Yin. Chen Sansi slapped Yin Hanwen's shoulder. Why did you withdraw from the examination? Ah! Yin Hanwen screamed in agony, his face contorting, almost collapsing to the ground. Mr. Chen, what are you doing? When Chosher was furious, rushing forward to support him. Ah! Chen Sansi looked surprised. I'm truly sorry. I was not aware that Brother Yin was injured. No wonder you gave up the selected point. What happened? Could it have been the work of the witch god sect followers? Yin Hanwen, sweating from the pain, said through gritted teeth. Exactly. On my way back from the tavern to my residence a few days ago, I encountered a group of witch god sect followers and got stabbed by a sword. Unfortunately, I couldn't stop them. So Brother Yin, you are the only eyewitness? Chen Sansi asked. Did you see where they went? The entire city is hunting for the witch god sect now. If they can be found, it would be a great accomplishment. Haha, no such luck. Yin Hanwen said cynically. Their qinggong was exceptional. They disappeared in the blink of an eye, and I couldn't catch up with them. So it is. Brother Yin, take good care of your injuries. Chen Sansi bowed and turned to leave. It seemed that Yin Hanwen was the one he had hit. With a transparent hole through his shoulder, and even a piece of bone missing, it would take a long time to heal, even with treasure medicine. Princely heir. Yin Hanwen's voice was distorted from the pain. Did you see that? He's so arrogant. It was your idea. If you're injured, just bear with it. Chao Fan's expression was emotionless. But don't worry, Hanwen. I'll avenge you. He shot you with one arrow, and I'll at least cut off one of his arms, cripple him for sure. Thank you, princely heir. Yin Hanwen said resentfully. That man is adept at the refining organ's skill. Who knows where he got the guts to fight back? During the competition, princely heir, you can take him down within 5 rounds. Do you even need the princely heir? I'll cripple him if I come across him. When Chosher said disdainfully. Actually, he might not even get through the first round of the formation. There's no need for us to act personally. True. Yin Hanwen sneered. Leading a bunch of ragtag troops from the backwoods, no matter how they train, they're still just that. No matter how exquisite the formation, it will scatter at the first charge, crumble at the first kill. I heard the supervisor cherishes his soldiers like his own children. Could this move be just to perform for the Lord Governor? This kid is indeed scheming. Knowing his humble origins and that his talent is good but not supreme, to secure a good future, he must catch the attention of those above. First, he earned His Majesty's favor by leading civilians across the river, and now he seeks to prove he is loyal and compassionate towards his old comrades to win over the supervisor. Quite the strategist he is. You're overthinking. The supervisor may appreciate loyal and compassionate individuals. True. But if he drags a bunch of useless trash onto the field, couldn't Sun Dusher see through his showmanship? It will only backfire. Exactly, at the end of the day, it's the ability to lead soldiers that's being tested. Let him be falsely benevolent. We'll just wait and enjoy the farce. The supporters of the various princely heirs were all talking at once. But it was Chao Fan himself who spoke up gravely. Perhaps not. When Chaucer asked with suspicion, "What do you mean by that, princely heir?" "I've had someone observe how his soldiers train." Chao Fan spoke calmly. Those soldiers who escaped from a small county in Yunzhou, under the command of an old man, practiced the formation very solidly and smoothly. Despite coming from a small place, they've all been through life and death struggles. They're not as weak as you all say. In this first test, in my opinion, he should have no issue. The capital city has specifically sent a message saying if there is a chance, he could make contact with Chun Sansi and see if he can be drawn to our side. Chapter 125. The life and death of the world, all depend on 1person_2. Initially, he found it odd that, despite the rarity of the 9-dragon body, it certainly wasn't non-existent, so why deign to please a country bumpkin? It was not until a few days ago that Chao Fan, having witnessed Chun Sansi's archery skills atop a mountain, had a change of heart. Later, after personally witnessing his troop training, he found Chun indeed has a way with training soldiers, indicating that the man truly possessed exceptional qualities. Though lacking in cultivation now, he could one day become a formidable general. But still, it was a pity. The man clearly had no intention of pledging loyalty. Let's set Yen Chongqing aside for now. This kid actually dared to contend with him for the title of champion leader in the selected point. Chao Fan could see from his eyes a determination to win at all costs, which was nothing short of audacious and foolhardy. Sun Xiangzong had wielded power for many years. Now, just as he was nearing his end, how could he allow the immortal law, surpassing even the martial saint, to fall into hands outside the Chao family? This alone warranted death for the Chun named. Fortunately, while the man had some abilities, his realm was too low. Up till now, he was still proficient in the refining organ skill, and even if he could break through to a small achievement soon, there was no way he could match someone who had achieved refining internal organs perfection. Of course, it would be best to incapacitate him before the martial arts competition segment commenced. For receiving the imperial edict meant if he took matters into his own hands, it might displease Grandpa. Chao Fan had already made arrangements. Even if Chun made it past the first obstacle of formation, he would fall at the second, breaking through the formation. Princely heir truly has the aura of a general. When Chaucer hastily agreed, "This is called knowing both your enemies and yourself, a guaranteed victory in every battle." Exactly. A group of people started to flatter again. "Brother Een." Tang Inca made his way to the front. "Are your injuries all right?" "Scram," Een Hanwen sneered. "If it weren't for you exposing yourself, how would I have taken that arrow? After the selected point is over, you'll see what's coming to you back in the capital city. Brother won yesterday, Brother Yao." Regardless of whom Tang Inca spoke to, he was either snubbed or outright ignored. Chun Sansi noticed this scene. Simply because he had spoken on his behalf, he was now ostracized, likely making the upcoming competition even tougher. "Hey!" Bai Thingji approached Tang Inca, who was standing alone in a corner, ignored by everyone. "Why do you keep trying to appease those who mistreat you? You might as well join us and follow General Chun. Surely, you can carve out a great career with us." "Thingji, stop inciting him here." Chun Sansi bowed with folded hands. "Thank you, Brother Tang, for your help earlier." "Mr. Chun, please, I didn't help much." Tang Inca sighed. "And Mr. Chun need not worry about me. I came to the selected point only for experience and have no desire to contend for the title. If I face the princely heir and his ilk in the martial arts stage, I will concede defeat. But Mr. Chun, you should be careful. Just this morning, I saw someone speaking with the person in charge of the second phase. Well, just be careful." With that, he stood up and took his leave. The second phase, breaking through the formation? Before Chun Sansi could speculate further, the martial arts arena reverberated with the sound of trumpets and war drums, announcing the official start of the selected point examination. Generals. Fong Qingyun, seated high above, began in a leisurely manner, his clear voice echoing throughout the martial arts arena. The selected point begins. The first major item, formation. Next, we will call your names in sequence. When a general's name is called, please lead your subordinates to another closed martial arts arena 5 miles away, where the official assessment will take place. The standard is to see whose formation withstands actual combat the best. Supervisor Sun Dusher, Governor Liu, and Ho Jianjun will serve as the chief examiners, personally adjudicating the scores and grading them from 1st to 4th tier. After all assessments are completed, we will determine the ranking based on the overall scores to decide the champion leader of this selected point. Besides that, the green-robed scholar continued humorously, with a smile, representatives from Yu State, Liangzhou, and Yen State, including various distinguished officials, will observe this selected point. Many among them have eligible daughters, so gentlemen, perform well and don't miss the opportunity to become highly desirable sons-in-law. With these words, the atmosphere in the martial arts arena relaxed considerably. Among them, several brilliant generals from humble or ordinary backgrounds all tensed up, clearly prepared to seize this chance to turn their fortunes. What use is mere combat prowess? Mingling in society involves power, a background. This is even more true for governmental officers employed at the court. All right, let's begin. Once Fong Qingyun concluded the opening ceremony, he was wheeled away by a soldier, Li Qianzong, holding a register, then called out, "Cui Yongping, present. Depart." The young general led his 500 subordinates directly towards the north, their marching formation crisp and orderly. In a closed martial arts arena 5 miles away, surrounded by walls 30 feet high, outsiders could not see inside. Hence, they had no way of knowing specifically how the formation was tested. Even after the assessment concluded, they would not return the same way but would exit from another end. Security measures were well implemented, ensuring that the details remained confidential until the final results were announced. The enclosed martial arts arena. Atop the tall city walls, several pavilions were built, the smaller ones on each side shielded by curtains, housing the families of officials who came to watch. In the central and most prominent pavilion sat the 3 chief examiners of this selected point selection: Sun Xiangzong, Governor Liu, and Mr. Ho. Behind them were various officials like governors and generals from different states, with the least being magistrates, creating a gathering solely of high-ranking officials who also served as overseers of the examination. Chapter 126. The life and death of the world. All depend on one person _3. Since this was an unorthodox martial examination, it was naturally not possible to let Sun Xiangzong make all the decisions alone. Many people were needed to witness the process to ensure fairness while making the generals participating in the selected point aware that they were soldiers of the court, not soldiers of the Sun family. This rule had been established only about 10 years ago. Before that, Sun Xiangzong did indeed have the final say. Sun Dusher. Mr. Liu put down the teacup in his hand, started with a smile. There are quite a few talented young people this time, several of whom need only a little nurturing to surely become great generals in the future. Indeed, Sun Xiangzong, dressed in coarse linen, half closed his eyes, leaning back in the Taisher chair. It is also the last time this old man will take disciples. I hope it brings some surprises. Mr. Liu. Mr. Ho's voice was shrill, and his hand holding the teapot posed with his finger curled. Who are you eyeing this time? Naturally, the young master. Mr. Liu confidently said, the crown prince has a dragon heart tiger bone, wields an azure dragon crescent blade bestowed by his majesty himself, and has achieved refining organ perfection. He's just 1 step away from Hua Jin. This competition's champion leader is none but him. If Sun Dusher could take the young master as his closed-door disciple, who knows, he might even become the dragon master in the future. Mr. Liu is perhaps too hasty. Mr. Ho expressed a differing opinion, slowly mentioning a few names. I think Elder Yan's grandson Yan Chongqing is a good choice. Just yesterday, he too broke through to refining organ perfection. As for Rootbone, he's certainly destined to become a martial saint with his Qilin body, and in the capital city, many call him the Qilin child. Moreover, there's Lu Shuhua, young sect master of the sky-reaching sword sect from Liangzhou, who naturally possesses a sword heart, and is destined to become a sword saint one day. There are also Wen Qiushi from Moon-Splitting Mountain Villa, Wen Xiaoyang, young sect master of Luoyun sect from capital city, Fei Yuliang from Yu State, Jie Shu from Yen State. All are highly competitive contenders. With so many outstanding talents, Mr. Liu, have you not seen them? Hee. Mr. Liu laughed. Though there are many talents, only 2 or 3 are destined to achieve the martial saint realm. Mr. Ho, do not forget, the final test of Rootbone is also part of the overall assessment and carries considerable weight. An A class in the Rootbone test is equivalent to 2 A classes in the other assessments. After all, the champion leader of the selected point will receive the best nurturing treatment from the court, involving the consumption of countless precious medicinal ingredients. Naturally, we must select a general with the highest potential. Some physiques show amazing cultivation speed in the early stages, but once they reach the meridian passage or profound image realm, their progress drastically slows or even becomes stagnant, making further breakthroughs impossible. For instance, Fei Yuliang from Yu State with his heavenly gang body will advance into the profound image realm more rapidly than his peers, but he has no hope of reaching the martial saint realm in his lifetime, let alone surpass it. Such individuals are fine to nurture as generals, but if they truly win the competition, they are not worth the full effort in nurturing. Hence, the importance of the Rootbone test is very high. Of course, the body of martial saint is not found every year. In past years, having a heavenly gang body was definitely considered as top-tier Rootbone. But who would have thought that this year, being the last selected point and Sun Xiangzong's final closed-door disciple, it would attract truly genuine talents from all over the world, raising the level of selected point more than twice over. I fear that even the real martial examination would not come close to the difficulty of this selected point. Even so, Mr. Ho insisted, Yan Chongqing, Lu Shuhua, and Jie Shu could also become martial saints. That's it. With an aged yet robust voice, Sun Xiangzong asked, Is that all you think highly of? Who else do you think could be added, Supervisor Sun? Stroking his beard, Governor Liu said, Those who have achieved refining organ perfection are just these few. Others are good, but far from winning the championship. Tapping on the armrest of his chair, Sun Xiangzong spoke indifferently. In my opinion, these rules need to be changed. Having a body of martial saint isn't very useful. I have 3 disciples who were so-called innate martial saints, and only one became a martial saint. The other 2 might be stuck in the profound image realm for many years. Apart from Rootbone, insight is also necessary. What Supervisor Sun said makes sense. The supervisor is, as always, very critical. But these rules are perhaps not so easily changed. Standing behind, Fang Qingyun, who had just ascended the city walls, asked, Bu Qi, if I remember correctly, Chun is of the 9-dragon body, right? Right, my sister saw with her own eyes when he trained the 9-dragon living veins. Could there be any mistake? With a troubled slap to his forehead, Sun Buki sighed. Shanshur is going to suffer a great loss. With enough resources, the minimum level for a 9-dragon body is the profound image realm, which is that of a general, but its limit is also profound image. In previous years, obtaining a Class A rating with 9-dragon body wouldn't have been a problem, but this year there are so many with the innate martial saint body, swarming all at once to participate in selected point, making a 9-dragon body seem less valuable. Probably, like Wen Qiushi and the others, he'll end up with a Class B, which is such a drag. 4th senior brother. Could you think of some way to help? That is a tricky issue. Fang Qingyun instructed his subordinates. Go get all the books about martial body from my room. Eh? Sun Buki seemed surprised by his senior brother's response. 4th senior brother, it seems you really want Shanshur to win too. It's not just me who wants him to win. Fong Qingyun looked towards the shabbily dressed old man at the front and said, "It's him, the old man. My father." Sun Buki was even more thrilled. He hadn't expected his father to fancy Shancher to such an extent. Ah! Fong Qingyun sighed deeply. It's a pity that rules are rules. With Governor Liu and Mr. Ho here, along with officials from the 3 states watching, it's difficult even for my master to favor anyone. I'll check first. As long as there has been one 9-dragon body that broke through to Martial Saint over the past millennia, it can barely be considered a Class A root bone, he said. Only he knew. Whether Chun could win the championship in this selected point wasn't simply about being the last closed-door disciple, but about a situation that could influence not just the 8 camps but potentially the entire trajectory of the world's major strategies. This game involved 8 deaths, 1 disablement, and 1 survivor. Whether it was death, survival, or disablement depended entirely on how far this disciple from Piyang County could go. Chapter 127. Sun Xiangzong's Grand Ambition. Train the last batch of disciples well, and Supervisor Sun can retire to enjoy the years of his life. Mr. Ho said in a drawn-out tone, "Our household is truly envious." Indeed, Governor Liu added, "Mr. Sun has worked hard for the court all his life, and he should rest well. The heavy responsibility of the Northern Territory's border defense and the 8 camps will be taken up by us juniors on behalf of the court." Sun Xiangzong lifted his teacup, skimming the froth off the tea, without speaking. Supervisor Sunday. Governor Liu leaned forward. Nansu country has had frequent exchanges with the barbarian envoys recently, stirring trouble. The main and deputy generals of the Azure Dragon, White Tiger, and Vermilion Bird camps will likely need to assist Prince Zhan Nan after the selected point concludes. The southern border needs such talented generals. What's the rush? Sun Xiangzong drank his tea unhurriedly. We'll talk about it when the time comes. Supervisor Sun. What do you mean? Governor Liu, clearly not expecting such a response, said solemnly. We had an agreement before. Times change. Sun Xiangzong removed the tea from the brim of his cup. Even if someone like Governor Liu stayed behind in Yunzhou 10 days ago, with the 8 camps present, it would be barely enough to keep an eye on the Northern Territory. But after 10 days, I fear it won't suffice. Even if barely. Hearing himself described in such terms, Governor Liu maintained a smile. Then what do you suggest, Supervisor Sun? Within 10 days in Yunzhou, they conducted a blood sacrifice with unclear intent. Both of you should be well aware of this. The longer we delay, the more likely the barbarians will grow stronger, until they are completely uncontrollable. Sun Xiangzong said lightly, Before I retire, I must at least annihilate 2 barbarian tribes to ensure that for 50 years no one dares to invade on a large scale. My disciples still need to stay and assist me. I'm afraid they can't be transferred away in a short time. Moreover, I need to expand the army. From 8 camps to 12 camps, the total military force should be expanded to over 150,000. The funds, grain, and medicinal materials required have all been calculated by me, and I hope the court can cooperate. Expand the camps? Governor Liu and Mr. Ho were both taken aback before almost simultaneously saying, Supervisor Sun, it's a major decision, not something you can determine with a single word. Sun Xiangzong reached into his chest, slowly pulling out a letter he had written. I have prepared the petition. Please trouble Mr. Ho to deliver it to His Majesty. His Majesty should grant his approval after reading it. What's there to be agitated about? I am a man on the brink of death, merely hoping to do something for the people before I pass away. Once I'm gone, let alone 12 camps, even if there are 20, aren't they all His Majesty's, the courts? Or are you worried that I might rebel? Supervisor Sun, your words are too harsh. Who in the world would doubt your loyalty to the court? Mr. Ho took care of the letter. This confidential letter, I will deliver to His Majesty as soon as possible. That's settled. Sun Xiangzong reclined again in the Grandmaster chair, squinting his eyes. Let's watch the selected point. Yes. Governor Liu nodded deeply. If His Majesty really approves Supervisor Sun's petition, these young people will be the core force of the new 4 camps. Yang! Li Qianzong sounded the battle drum. Enter! Buzz! The wooden doors of the martial arts arena opened. The first candidate for the selected spear generals, Cui Yongping, began his assessment. Soon after, the 3 examiners discussed and gave a rating. Second class. The formation was smooth, but he took too long to recover from the initial surprise attack. Even though he eventually stabilized the formation without crumbling, second class is the highest he can achieve. Next.
Yes is who?
Next. Chun Sansi. Chun Sansi. Governor Liu remarked. Isn't that the young general who escorted the civilians across the river? Exactly. Mr. Ho said. Mr. Chun is favored by His Majesty, exceptionally promoted to 3rd rank honor. If he further establishes military achievements, a title of nobility awaits him. I've spent half my life in officialdom and am now just a 2nd-rank governor with the title of an upright senior minister. For him to achieve 3rd rank at such a young age, he indeed has a limitless future. Governor Liu lamented. It's just a pity he doesn't know how to stay clean and has already gotten mixed up with young Master Yan. He will inevitably be tainted by corruption and end up in disgrace. Mr. Liu, mind your words. Mr. Ho retorted. Elder Yan is held in high esteem. How could you describe him as a treacherous official in your words? Isn't he? Governor Liu snorted. 30 years ago, the capital city purge. 20 years ago, the flood caused by dike demolition. 15 years ago. In short, how many loyal ministers have died because of the Yen party? They were lawless because they once carried out reforms and won the emperor's trust. Is he not a treacherous official? And about the fall of Anding Prefecture's Great Wall, General Li Yuan, who was in charge of the Great Wall, wasn't he once Yen Liang's student? It's very likely that he betrayed the country. If you don't have evidence, how can Mr. Liu make such accusations? Those of us in the palace dare not gossip, or we wouldn't survive 3 days. Mr. Ho sneered. Whether Elder Yen is loyal or not, it is for the wise emperor to judge. As for you, Mr. Liu, I really want to remind you the current emperor is pursuing the way of immortality, and who knows, he might ascend one day. You and Mr. Gao frequently contact the crown prince of the Eastern Palace. I wonder what you're scheming. Don't forget. Whether it is Elder Yen, Mr. Gao, or the Crown Prince, they are all servants of the Emperor. No need for Mr. Ho's reminder. Mr. Liu snorted. Our loyalty to the Emperor is clear for all to see. Chapter 128. Sun Xiangzong's Grand Ambition _2. Issue each of them a knife. Sun Xiangzong suddenly spoke. Yes, master. A general with a bear's back and a tiger's waist, clad in armor despite a bald head with scars from ring incisions, and a huge Buddha bead necklace around his neck, complied. He pulled out 2 bright blades from the belts of 2 soldiers behind him and threw them in front of the quarreling pair. Mr. Sunday, Governor Liu exclaimed in shock. What do you mean by this? Women's gossip, the bald general grumbled. Your arguing has almost put my master to sleep. If you truly can't stand each other, roll down there and settle it with life and death. Oh, I forgot. Mr. Ho doesn't even have that thing. You. Mr. Ho's face turned green with rage, pointing with his orchid fingers at the other party. General Meng, you dare insult me? Meng Guangxin was not the least bit afraid. Noticing the expressionless Sun Xiangzong, they finally dared not quarrel any longer, with each of them quieting down to watch the next contest at the selected spear. Brother Chun, it's fine to take a B grade too. Yen Chongqing consoled. Once I win the selected spear and secure my footing, I will promote you a great deal. Then I must thank you in advance, Mr. Yen. Chun Sansi wasted no words and led his men onwards. The martial arts arena was a large enclosed space, easily accommodating tens of thousands of people. Moreover, several hundred people sat on the walls above, watching the selected spear contest, each with a powerful energy within. With his keen eyesight, Chun Sansi spotted Mr. Ho and the 2 people beside him with just a glance. One wore a crimson official robe adorned with pheasant patches, and the other, an old man in coarse linen. From where they sat, it was clear they were the chief examiners. The man in the red robe was naturally Governor Liu, and the old man in linen was likely Sun Dusher, Sun Xiangzong. It was unexpected that the great supervisor, whose reputation was formidable, would be so unremarkable in appearance. Not only that, the energy flowing within him was also unique. In all the practitioners present, the energy was transparent, differing only in thickness, like Mr. Ho's energy being extremely dense, almost materialized, and Governor Liu wasn't far behind, not to mention the bald monk-like general and the other generals. But the energy in Sun Xiangzong's body was green, unlike anyone else's. It was somewhat similar to the pale blue energy within exotic beasts, but deeper. It was more fitting to describe it as green. Above martial saint, indeed extraordinary. Even the method of cultivation was completely different from that of ordinary martial artists. But, looking around the world, Chun Sansi couldn't find this Qingxian energy anywhere. Could it be cultivated rather than absorbed? Or is it only discoverable at a certain level of attainment? Clang! Li Qianzong stood on the high platform and announced, "Selected spear generals, please ascend the platform and command your subordinates from above. Do not participate personally in the battle. The assessment will start after 2 sticks of incense." Forming an array was naturally about commanding ability. If one took charge of everything personally, it would not make one a general but a mere commoner. Chun Sansi climbed onto the high platform and noticed traces on the ground, including bloodstains. It seemed that indeed someone could die during the drill, which was understandable. Without the threat of real death, the true combat effectiveness of the soldiers could not be tested. It was just uncertain how it would be done. Roar! His ears twitched to a low growl from within the walls. "I see." Chun Sansi nodded to Su Wenkai among the crowd, signaling that they could begin. "Form the array." Su Wenkai unfurled his feather fan. Over 500 men arranged themselves into a simple defensive 4 gates formation with incredible speed. Once the official assessment begins, a squad of our own cavalry will charge to break through the formation. They might cause injuries, but they will definitely not take your lives. Rest assured, Li Qianzong announced loudly. "Your task is very simple. There is only one, and that is to maintain the formation." They wouldn't take lives? Perhaps not. Clearly, this was a test of the ability to respond to sudden attacks, to see how they would react to unforeseen circumstances on the battlefield and what the outcome would be. However, Chun Sansi was confident in his subordinates and saw no need to break the rules by giving an advance warning. "These aren't soldiers from the Liangzhou Guard, are they?" Governor Liu Zhongxian, assisting the supervisor in controlling the army of 3 states, naturally could tell at a glance. "Indeed they are." Mr. Ho was also surprised. "Whose soldiers are they?" General Zhao, also in the audience, replied, "They are the routed soldiers who fled from Piyang County." Routed soldiers? Liu Zhongxian couldn't help but chuckle. What is Mr. Chen's intention with this? How could Mr. Chen be made to use routed soldiers? Mr. Ho glared behind him, his shrill voice cold and piercing. "General Zhao. Mr. Chen is a general conferred by His Majesty. Is someone daring to target him, denying him troops?" "Mr. Ho, Zhao would never do such a thing." General Zhao responded. "Mr. Chen insisted on using his old troops. Many can attest to that, and there's no need for the 2 esteemed gentlemen to underestimate them. It's said that these country soldiers have been trained exceptionally well." "Oh," Mr. Ho said with interest. "Mr. Chen is preparing to showcase his command skills to everyone. Don't throw a rock only to have it land on your own foot." Liu Zhongxian watched with anticipation. Sun Xiangzong still didn't speak, just watching quietly. Boom, boom, boom. The war drums sounded. The martial arts arena was like a large coliseum, and with the sound of the drums, the 8 gates of the coliseum opened simultaneously. From each gate came 20 cavalry, heading straight towards the 4 gates defensive formation. Chapter 129. Sun Xiangzong's Grand Ambition _3. The formation centered around Wang Ji started operating. With no obstructions, it resisted the cavalry's repeated charges without showing any signs of disorder. After 4 charges, the cavalry gradually left the arena. "That's it," Zhao Kong said incredulously. "It's over. Don't let your guard down. Maintain the formation and do not disperse." Su Wenkai, who was at the very heart of the formation, shouted loudly. "If anyone makes a mistake before the examiner announces the end, they will be dealt with by military law when we return. Definitely, it can't be this simple." Wang Ji murmured to himself. Having been in the 8 camps for many years, he naturally knew the range of difficulty for these assessments. Even though the specific methods of assessment changed every year, they wouldn't be this easy. Roar! Indeed, just as the last cavalryman left, sudden strange beastly roars echoed from all directions. Then, one after another, wild beasts like wolves, tigers, leopards, and jackals rushed out of the gates. Their sizes were much larger than normal, their eyes blood-red as if dripping with blood, their fangs as sharp as blades, dripping with thick saliva. It was unclear how long they had not eaten, but now, seeing fresh flesh, they crazily pounced towards the people in the center of the martial arts arena. In everyone's eyes, it was an unavoidable beast tide. Most critical was that these ferocious beasts were too strange. Their abnormal sizes and blood-red eyes were just like the demon beasts of legend. Could it be that they are all exotic beasts? Most people who had just arrived in Liangzhou had never heard the term poisonous beast. The first thing that came to their minds was exotic beast. Any ferocious beast that turned into an exotic beast would have its combat power skyrocket. Such exotic beasts would terrify ordinary people to the point of urinating themselves. Especially since the cavalry charges had given everyone the illusion that no one would be harmed, the huge contrast inevitably caused panic. Once panicked, blood would be seen, and when added together, the formation could easily collapse. "They're just beasts. Hold your ground and kill," Wang Ji roared as he brandished his sword at the very front. The flag officers responsible for command waved their array flags skillfully, manipulating the formation to maximize the strategic advantage of the 4-door containment formation. They split the more than 400 wild beasts apart. Even though the number of people appeared similar to that of the poisonous beasts, they firmly trapped them as if their numbers were several times greater. The power of these poisonous beasts was incredibly terrifying, especially a few poisonous beast-transformed tigers, whose strength could match that of a martial artist in the bone training realm. They immediately flipped over several soldiers, but the formation, far from being disorderly, was quickly filled whenever there was a gap airtight. Some soldiers, in order to avoid errors, even used their bodies to resist physically to buy an extra second or two for the formation to recover. What intense battling will, it was merely an evaluation. Yet they fought with the resolve of a life-and-death battle. It seemed everyone was unafraid of death, determined to maintain the formation for the greater good until the end. Sinking formation death will overlaying. How can they be without clothes? This beast tide hadn't even brought out the soldiers' full strength. Beasts are ultimately just beasts, soon bewildered by shield after shield, followed by a sky-covering storm of spears and arrows. The martial arts arena turned essentially into a slaughterhouse. If it continued like this, it wouldn't be long before many poisonous beasts would be cleanly annihilated. "Stop!" Li Qianzong hurriedly sounded the gong. "Disperse the formation. We need to keep these poisonous beasts for the next part of the assessment. Don't kill them all." Boom! Several deputy generals in the Meridian Passage realm emerged, completely driving the poisonous beasts from the arena. In fact, they had been covertly watching all along, not allowing any soldier to die at the jaws of the poisonous beasts. At most, some were seriously injured and would intervene at critical moments to rescue. Of course, their intervention meant potentially disturbing the formation. But the group of men in front of them needed no such help. It was a sudden incident at first, a few were injured, and then the situation was quickly stabilized, passing the test beautifully. "Truly worthy of the men who crossed the river together," Mr. Ho exclaimed. "Supervisor's son, have you seen? Facing just an assessment, These men disregarded life and death as if they were on a real battlefield. If they really were on the field of battle, they would surely be invincible, far stronger than the Liangzhou soldiers commanded by several generals up front. The assessment was currently more than halfway done. Roughly 40% of the people secured Class A ratings. In reality, the difficulty of the beast tide wasn't great. It wouldn't truly slaughter the soldiers. As long as one could stabilize the four-door containment formation, passing was entirely doable. But in many soldiers' minds, this was just an assessment and not a real battlefield. Even getting injured seemed unworthy, let alone sacrificing their lives, naturally leading to panic. Whether one could follow military commands as steadfast as a mountain, that was also a big test for the leaders commanding soldiers. All three main examiners took note. Commanding this formation was actually an old scholar in the very middle. A scholar commanding a battle formation. In the 8 camps, there was currently only one Fang Qingyun. This also implicitly showed that Chun Sanxi's command ability over military tactics was supremely excellent. This Mr. Chun is truly capable. General Zhao couldn't help but admire. It's just a pity that his talents are not enough. Otherwise, he would also be a strong competitor for the position of true inheritor. To become a main general in the future would also be quite good. Uncontested, the 3 main examiners gave a Class A assessment. Injured soldiers carried away to receive the best treatment. The others left under command. Master! Fang Qingyun approached the old man pushing a wooden wheel. Did you see Lao Lu? These years he has indeed become much steadier. Falling to the bone training realm and being a minor 1,000 captain in the county household, yet managing to be down to earth is certainly not easy. Chapter 130. Sun Xiangzong's Grand Ambition _4. The first selected point challenge swiftly concluded, and the results were subsequently announced. Chun Sanxi was, without a doubt, Class A. Besides him, Chao Fan from the Imperial Army naturally also attained a Class A, as did Lu Shuhua, and there were others. There were also a few whose cultivation was decent, but their leadership in commanding troops was too poor, such as Jie Sishu from Yen State, who possessed the body of innate martial saint, yet in this round merely secured a Class C result, effectively eliminating half of the candidates. He really guessed it right. When Chosher listened to the announced results in surprise, that Chen guy truly managed to obtain a Class A in this round. What's the use of that? In Hanwen's wounds burst open, his complexion deathly pale. It's not as if this is the only challenge to be assessed. Chao Fan looked towards the martial arts arena, which was already being prepared for the second challenge, his gaze dark and foreboding. After resting for half an hour, the second selected point challenge, breaching the formation, ensued. Li Qianzong called out with a raised voice, declaring the rules. Next, 40,000 troops will be drawn from the 8 camps and deployed to set up a simplified 9-palace 8 diagram formation in the martial arts arena. Your aim is to enter the formation and break out in the shortest time possible. Has the sheer number of troops startled you? Don't be afraid. This round primarily tests how you respond when surrounded by heavy forces, whether you can arrange troops in a formation, and whether you can solve the formation to find a way to survive. The soldiers in the formation will mainly aim to capture you alive rather than take your life, and due to the large number of people, the highest cultivation within the formation will merely be bone-forging perfection. There will be no one of the same refining internal realm as you. All you need to do is find the hidden way out of the formation to break through. Those who rush out of the 9-palace 8 diagram formation within the time it takes for 1 incense stick to burn will be considered Class A. The following will drop 1 rank for every additional half an incense stick they take. If you are captured alive, you will be directly eliminated from the assessment for main general and may join the assessment for deputy general next door. Of course, there is no need to feel disheartened. Whether through a moment of sudden insight or through meritorious deeds in the future, you still have the opportunity to become a main general in your own right. The formation is now ready. Like before, I will call names to begin the challenge through the formation. Chui Yongping. Roar. A formation with tremendous momentum unfolded before everyone's eyes. Banners flailed wildly. Drums reverberated through the heavens. If one were to look down from a high platform, It was clear that this formation was like a live 8 diagram pattern in motion. The rushing soldiers within it subtly conformed to the natural order of the universe, faintly capable of enhancing the soldiers' combat abilities. What a marvelous formation! Only a marvelous formation could yield such an effect. This time, the examination was not held in a closed environment, and everyone could watch the assessment process of the previous selected spear general. Because the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation was a living entity constantly changing, let alone the fact that onlookers were not allowed to stand at a high vantage point, from a horizontal perspective, one could only see the first few rows, and with an 8-foot-tall mystical iron shield blocking the view tightly, it was impossible to clearly make out what was happening deep inside. Prolonged observation could instead impart a sensation of oppression. Once again taking the lead, Cui Yongping charged into the formation on horseback. About half an incense stick's time later, the result came through.
Cui Yongping, captured alive, eliminated.
After that, 8 others entered the fray one after another, with half of them being eliminated and the highest grade amongst the rest being only Class B. There wasn't even a single Class A. This caused considerable alarm and trepidation among the candidates. Even Jie Sishu from Yen State, with a body of innate martial saint, only obtained a Class B. It's as if the formation consumes people. Once inside, one cannot get out. Last year's selected spear exam wasn't this formation, was it? Why is it so difficult this year? Even Lu Shuhua, Chao Fan, and Yen Chongqing, those geniuses who were favored to win the competition, were all extremely tense. This was a formation for 40,000 people, and although it required only containment and not combat, it still presented an absolutely terrifying level of difficulty. Chun Sansi, who had been well prepared, walked to the front. This is the horse. This is the weapon. This stage of the formation challenge was a race against time. The better the horse, the greater the natural advantage one had. Some from noble and generals' families might even have a batch of exotic beast warhorses. To ensure fairness, everyone was prohibited from riding their own warhorses, and instead, they were issued horses by the 8 camps. The horse allocated to Chun Sansi was a black one, far inferior to Chen Sun, but still considered an excellent warhorse. After checking that there were no problems, he received an unsharpened reed-leaf long spear. Everyone's information had already been recorded, and the weapon they used was a matter of public record. The reason for issuing unsharpened weapons was twofold: to increase difficulty and to prevent the selected spear generals from getting bloodthirsty. These geniuses could easily kill 200 or 300 people if given the chance. After all, this was only an assessment. Casualties were hard to avoid, but it wouldn't do to completely disregard the lives of one's own people. Even in the previous formation challenge, there were experts at the Meridian Passage stage overseeing everything to prevent too many casualties. Therefore, this stage used blunted weapons to minimize injuries, reminding generals to show mercy with their subordinates. The Jinhua sword couldn't be brought in either. Besides, such mystical weapons were the domain of Huajin warriors, and their use would have introduced an element of unfairness. Chun Sansi didn't really care. After breaking through to refining internal, he hadn't had time to practice either swordsmanship or saber technique. Even if he brought them along, it wouldn't make much difference. He confirmed there were no issues with the horse, and on the surface the weapon seemed unproblematic too. But without live combat, he couldn't be sure if there were hidden defects, and he had no time to test it. Above the desk, the sandalwood incense used to measure time had been lit. Every second that followed was precious. Time waits for no one. Begin. Go. Chun Sansi spurred his horse into the battle formation, a man and his horse vanishing like they were diving into the maw of a gigantic beast, disappearing from sight. The 9 Palace 8 diagram formation, also known as the 8 Gates Golden Lock formation, was a formation invented over 1,000 years ago, lost for over 900 years until Fang Qingyun successfully restored it and brought it into practical use just over a decade ago. It was during that time that he earned his reputation as Phoenix. This formation was enigmatic and incredibly complex, and even if one understood the layout of the 9 Palace 8 diagram, they still had to discern the true from the false. It was normal for several generals to be captured at the front. Luckily, Chun Sansi had mastered this formation long ago. If it were truly just an exercise, he believed he could break out of the encirclement quickly, definitely in less than the time it took for an incense stick to burn. It's just that, with his exceptional senses, how could he not notice the princely heir Chao Fan's constant, sinister gaze on him? Plus, Tang Inca had warned him beforehand, so he was well aware he might encounter trouble in this stage. But until it actually happened, even if he spoke up, how could it be verified without the other party confessing? Well then, my path has always been fraught with challenges. Chun Sansi gripped the reed-leaf-long spear in his hand, resolute and fearless. If someone really means to trouble me, even a weapon without an edge can kill. Chapter 131. You can kill without a gun tip. After the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation was restored, it gradually fell into the hands of the common folk. When Chun Sansi had free time, he and Su Wenkai had studied it together and were thoroughly familiar with it. It was only because they did not have enough soldiers that they could not set it up. In real combat, there was no such thing as a life gate. The life gate would be heavily guarded, turning it into the actual death gate, making the entire formation impenetrable, unless one relied on brute force to break down the formation until it collapsed on its own. But since it was an exercise and one that required racing against time, there would certainly be a life gate, testing the main general's understanding of military formations and their personal adaptive capabilities. Once inside the battle formation, one would be attacked by countless axes, halberds, hooks, and forks from all directions, aimed mostly at the warhorses beneath them. Under these circumstances, losing a warhorse was akin to having one's legs broken, and one would soon be surrounded by heavy troops, unable to escape. However, the soldiers within the 8 diagram formation bore no real malice and preferred to capture alive if possible, or else just to delay time. A stick of incense, or about half an hour, was needed to break through the formation of 40,000 men. Just walking across would take an unknown length of time, not to mention that these array soldiers were all elites from the 8 camps. Even if the generals above the refining internal level were eliminated, leaving behind only those at the bone training level, it would be impossible to force one's way through. One had to find the life gate. Northwest Chong Palace, 5 elements belonging to gold. Open the gate. While Chun Sansi continually parried attacks from every direction, he quickly determined his position in the sea of people and soon found the only path to life. To his left was one of the 3 deadly gates, the injury gate, which appeared to have weak forces but would trap anyone who entered, preventing their escape. To his right was the surprise gate, combining reality and illusion, likely hiding a death gate behind it. Only directly ahead was the rest gate, the only G-man in sight, yet it was blocked by an 8-foot-tall mystical iron shield, looking impregnable. A bluff! Go! Chun Sansi shouted, and the long spear in his hand, unsharpened, smashed down like a siege giant hammer, flipping the shield and the heavy armor soldier holding it into the air. He burst through the tight encirclement as if opening a large door, and man and horse alike surged through like fish returning to the ocean, unhindered and charging forward. Good! Above the city walls, the officials watched the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation on the ground from a godlike perspective, applauding and cheering. Mr. Chun is incredible! General Zhao praised sincerely. Up to this point, he is the fastest to have found the direction of the life gate. Even Jie Sishu, with the body of an 8 martial saint, made several mistakes before finding the right path, leading to only a Class B result in the end. Mr. Ho also admired him greatly. After General Fong broke through the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation, even I studied it for a full 3 years before I understood it. Mr. Chun has only been enlisted for a short time, and not only does his martial arts prowess nearly rival the geniuses of the capital city, but he also possesses such substantial military strategy strength. Passable. Sun Xiangzong slightly raised the corners of his mouth, returned to his seat, and continued to drink tea while watching. Not bad at all. Meng Guangxin stretched his neck. Old Fourth, whatever formation you've come up with, in my eyes, it looks like a bunch of circles spinning around. This kid did well, broke it in an instant. Otherwise, How do you think he managed to defeat 6,000 barbarians with just over 1,000 remaining soldiers? Fang Qingyun was not surprised at all. Then, leading those 1,000 wounded soldiers, he escorted tens of thousands of civilians across the river. It's impossible with brute strength alone. He also needed comprehension and flexible application of military tactics. I also know military tactics. Meng Guangxin touched his bald head. It's not as complicated as you say. If we can fight, we fight. If we can't, we run. No need to look any further for the first to reach Class A in the breakthrough exercise. Sun Buki declared the victory outright. Apart from the chief examiner, the invigilating officers, and the officials, the ladies who came for the show didn't understand the intricacies but could see that this young general was the only one who wasn't trapped after entering the battle formation. Sun Li, this is the Chun Sansi you were talking about, right? Several daughters of high-ranking officials were engrossed in the scene from behind a curtain. Sun Li was among them. Today, she did not wear clothes suitable for fighting, but a white gauze stand-collar jacket that revealed a light pink lining, a Kong Mansion floriated skirt on the lower body, and her hair pinned. Yes, Sun Li answered faintly. That's him. He's really impressive, but I heard his qualifications are not enough. Her friend said, this time, the champion will be one of Chao Fan, Yan Chongqing, or Lu Shuhua. By the way, Sun Li, hasn't your father ever considered a marriage alliance with the imperial family? Though they were ladies, being from high-ranking official families, they were exposed to some degree of court politics. To these people, the best way for the Sun family to descend from power safely was to become part of the imperial family.
No.
Sun Li replied calmly. There indeed had been no such thing. Not only had she never entertained the idea, but her father had also never had such intentions and didn't follow other high-ranking families in arranging political marriages generation after generation. Moreover, the Sun family's situation was unique. Mere marriage alliances could not resolve their issues. This was not her concern. All she could do was practice her swordplay and strive to become stronger. I'm going back. With that thought, Sun Li could no longer sit still and stood up to leave. Chapter 132. You can kill without a gun tip. Just then, a cry of alarm came from the front. How did this general's weapon break? Those watching the battle from atop the city walls clearly hadn't expected the sudden turn of events. The young general in the thick of the formation saw his long spear break after smashing through several shields. What was left was just a wooden rod, devoid of its spear tip. His spear has broken. Don't let him seize another weapon. Within the battlefield, the soldiers of the 8 camps relayed signals to one another. Did Chao Fan have a hand in this? Chun Sansi looked at the broken spear, somewhat mentally prepared, yet he felt the game was not over. There might be other traps. Otherwise, the impact would be negligible. Without a spear tip, spear technique simply turns into stick skill, and without even a stick, it falls back to empty-handed combat. This is why the spear is called the king of weapons, difficult to master. He originally wanted to try seizing another spear from someone, but the soldiers of the 8 camps were well prepared and kept retreating, giving him no chance to succeed even briefly. If he stopped specifically to seize a weapon, even a delay of 3 to 5 seconds could allow pursuers to catch up to him. The 9 Palace 8 diagram formation is not a fixed formation, but one that changes, which is what truly makes it formidable. The safe path tread just a second ago could turn into a deadly trap the next. At this point, as long as he broke through the dew gate up ahead, he would be unobstructed all the way to the life gate and thoroughly pass this challenge. With most of the sandalwood incense already burnt, he could not afford to waste time here. After all, there were no martial artists beyond the refining organ level in the entire Grand Formation, and the soldiers attacked only the horses, not the men, showing no intent to kill, which almost guaranteed that no one could stop him. To him, it was merely a maze made of men, and a very simple maze at that. Charge! Chun Sansi paid no heed and plunged into the battle formation of the Dew Gate, formed by cavalrymen with long sabers. Bang! The stick in his hand seemed to merge with his body, and although it was made of wood, it struck down men and horses like steel, not even giving the edge of a saber the chance to meet it head-on. The final wave. Hum. As Chun Sansi charged towards the final wave of men with caution, the unexpected inevitably happened. Several cavalrymen wielding long sabers surged from both sides, striving with all their might to stop him from crossing the last defense. The Du Gate was naturally fierce and equally balanced. It was normal for it to be challenging. What felt wrong to Chun Sansi was that refining organ levels were hidden here. It was agreed that the highest level within the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation was bone training, so why were there refining organ levels? And these men, they carried a murderous intent, not coming to capture him alive. They not only attacked his horse but also aimed for his throat, heart, and other vulnerable spots with sneak attacks. Bang! Chun Sansi brought down his stick in a mighty split, crushing a cavalryman along with his helmet, and he shouted, "Refining organs? Are you breaking the rules now?" "Bullshit. I am merely bone training," a one-eyed general retorted while swinging his long saber, casting trailing images. At least, there were 4 martial artists with a small achievement in refining organs. Moreover, they were quite cunning, not using the explosive speed characteristic of refining organs but relying solely on potent chi blood, making it difficult for the examiners on the city walls to discern anything with the naked eye. Only those who truly engaged in combat could immediately sense that something was amiss. Moreover, with many high-realm martial artists in the 8 camps, even achieving small success in refining organs might not necessarily secure a position as a 1,000 captain. The examiners on the city walls held such high positions, and not all of them had photographic memory. They likely did not recognize them. It was an extremely insidious tactic. Even if it did not kill him, it could delay him considerably, allowing the cavalry following him to surround him completely. At worst, he would end up eliminated. Despite clearly looking down on him as a master of the refining organ skill, they still designed obstacles for him. It was truly a case of strategically despising the enemy while tactically valuing them, indeed a talent of military leadership. Unfortunately, small achievement in refining organs couldn't stop him. Moreover, he wasn't planning to leave. The purpose of this assault course is not to kill our own, but, since you've broken the rules, you're naturally no longer considered as our own. Chun Sansi's face showed no emotion, his tone as still as a dead pond. I give you 2 choices, either confess voluntarily or die here. What evidence do you have that we've broken the rules? The one-eyed general sneered. They planned to switch back to the original person before the next evaluation began, unbeknownst to anyone. As for death, the one-eyed general said contemptuously, our realms are similar. You don't even have a gun tip? Who can you kill? Who said you can't kill without a gun tip? As his words fell, a spear, now just a wooden shaft, fiercely pierced through the throat of the one-eyed general. It was so fast that nobody saw clearly when the spear, no stick, was thrust. Better show your skills of small success in refining organs, or you might get a few more breaths. Another refining organ general was stabbed through the throat. The remaining 2 refining organ generals were shocked and horrified, and no longer held back, bursting forth with the speed they should possess, slashing toward their opponent from both sides. But they quickly realized that even with all their might, they were no match. In Chun Sansi's hands, the spear lacked a tip, just the sticky, dark red blood, which, in the eyes of the 2 refining organ generals, resembled a madly flailing blood-red python, instilling fear in their hearts. The unity spear technique, unstoppable. The 2 thought about fleeing, but there was no chance. Their throats pierced one after another by the blood-colored python, falling from their horses into pools of blood where their hearts ceased to beat. With the leader dead, his subordinates panicked and fled, but were surrounded by the 8 camp soldiers who had watched the entire proceedings. They had nowhere to run, allowing Chun Sansi to start a massacre. This general, if they really broke the rules, they deserve to die. We just need to leave one alive to find out what happened later. Why has he started a massacre? Atop the city wall, Governor Liu, watching the bloody scene unfold, said, those people clearly couldn't stop him. Why didn't he just break through the formation and end his examination instead of staying to kill? Are you pretending to be confused, or are you truly confused? Mr. Ho coldly said, Didn't you realize that the strength shown by those people before they died was that of refining organs? Who has such audacity to tamper within selected point? It's absolutely outrageous. It really is refining organs. Even Sun Buki noticed, with refining organs mixed inside. Fourth senior brother? What's going on? The spear technique is not bad. Sun Xiangzong's expression remained unchanged, but his voice made everyone present feel as if they were choking, as if someone was grasping their throats. I truly am useless now. They are beginning to bully me for my deafness and blindness. Fifth junior brother, go down and investigate who did it, and bring them here. Chapter 133, Martial Saint, what is that supposed to be? Outside the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation. No matter what was happening in the core of the formation, the selected spear generals at the forefront could neither see nor hear it. They only knew that the sandalwood incense was burning incessantly and was about to burn out. Class B. Zhao Kong and others looked on from a distance, even more anxious than if they were the ones being assessed. An anomaly indicates the presence of demons. Su Wenkai, flicking his feather fan, said, I and Mr. Chun have already thoroughly studied the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation. By calculation, it should have ended by now. The fact that he hasn't come out yet means there's definitely an accident. Let's wait and see. Why hasn't General Chun come out yet? Bai Thingji wanted to climb higher to see what was happening inside, but was blocked by weapons. Please abide by the rules, General, or your qualification will be revoked. Tang Inca sat on a stone pier, drawing with his sword on the ground. Brother, Bai Thingji came over. Last time I saw you murmuring a bunch to General Chun. Do you know something? Share with me. It's nothing. Tang Inca avoided the question. Mr. Chun is capable. He won't die. Won't they die? Even Bai Thingji, as simple-minded as he was, could tell something was off. Normally, one wouldn't die in the formation trial. To say so meant there was a problem. That's it. In Hanwen looked at the nearly burnt-out first stick of sandalwood incense. Even I can break the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation. I thought this kid was something special, but he fell at the second hurdle. When Chosher followed up, he still couldn't escape the palm of the princely heir. Chao Fan said nothing, merely waiting silently for the result to be announced. Class B? That wasn't enough. He hoped, if not death, then at least crippling, so the man would stop being an eyesore, flitting about before his eyes. Moreover, today's arrangement was foolproof, as he had a martial saint helping him with a greater scheme in store regarding the layout of the 8 camps. Buzz! Suddenly, a sound of heavy weapons cleaving the air resounded beside them. Chao Fan's eyebrows knitted together as he picked up his azure dragon crescent blade. He saw Bai Thingji raising his broadsword and coming at them. What princely air? I'll slaughter you. Truly a well-biting hound. Chao Fan had heard his father say. There were loyal ministers in the world who could be unimaginably faithful to their masters, and securing such talented generals was indeed a great fortune. It seemed there really were such people. Unfortunately, they were not his. What are you doing? Chao Fan said gravely. Attacking the princely heir for no reason. Do you want to have your entire clan executed? Bai Thingji stated bluntly. Tell me, was it you who sabotaged the formation? Ridiculous. Chao Fan scoffed. Chen's own incompetence at breaking out of the formation has nothing to do with me. Why are you biting me without reason? He didn't need to lift a finger himself. Bai Thingji was already blocked at every turn. Knowing he could not get close, Bai Thingji shouted to Thousand Captain Li at the side. My lord, there's definitely something wrong with the formation. He was not just speculating without cause. That Tang Inca was clearly aware of the inside story. He just hadn't revealed it. Without evidence, you dare to create a disturbance? Thousand Captain Li frowned. If there truly is a problem, the chief examiners will deal with it justly. There's no need for you to shout and scream here. Seize him, and after the examination is over, decide whether to revoke his selected spear qualification. Russell. Several generals who had attained refining internal organs perfection responsible for maintaining order in the examination field, stepped forward and pinned Bai Thingji firmly to the ground. Thousand Captain Li turned to look at the sandalwood incense on the table, sighed inwardly, and estimated it was also Class B, noting that the 9-Palace-8 diagram formation devised by General Fong really was difficult to break. The assessment is over. Chun Sansi, Class A. A loud voice rang out alongside the gong. At the same time, the incense on the table coincidentally extinguished. The first Class A. Class A. The previously eliminated selected spear generals, who had received a Class B, all showed an incredulous expression. Generals like Cui Yongping and Xie Sishu even thought that Class B was the highest grade attainable in this assessment. Because the 9-Palace-8 diagram formation was just too difficult. It's easy to theorize about strategies on paper. They all knew how the formation worked, but when they genuinely entered the vast formation of 40,000 men, they immediately became headless flies. With concepts like the 9 Palace, the 6 gates, the 6 instruments, and the 3 oddities, although clear in their minds, they became confused, unable to discern anything on the field. That rural general, whose skills were even inferior to theirs, somehow scored Class A, showing his profound understanding of military tactics and his extraordinary adaptability on the spot. Class A. The moment before, those like Yin Hanwen who had been reveling in another's misfortune were suddenly petrified. Especially Chao Fan, who wasn't even fully confident about securing Class A himself, let alone considering the obstacles he had set up inside the formation, even tampering with the weapons. Truly capable indeed. He had a measure of respect in his heart. If this person wasn't so intent on competing for the title of champion leader and wasn't unwilling to ally with him, he indeed would have been a talent to utilize. Fortunately, you may have passed the hurdle, but your dog won't. He approached the soldiers maintaining order. Thousand Captain Li, you've seen it. Mr. Chun passed smoothly. There's nothing unfair about this examination. This clearly shows he's deliberately disrupting order. Why not revoke his selected spear qualification promptly and then take him away for questioning? Bang! A bloody severed head fell from the sky, landing in front of everyone. Chun Sansi appeared empty-handed. Thousand Captain Li, Bai Thingji was not talking nonsense. Someone indeed tampered with the formation. Please do not punish him. Thousand Captain, we can testify. General Chun speaks the truth. The soldiers who witnessed the entire process also came over, speaking in unison. The people at the Dew Gate were replaced, including several refining internals, and they were aiming to kill. Bring them here. Chapter 134 Marshal Saint, what is it? _2. Several refining internal leaders had died, and the soldiers under them were not spared either, having been beaten half to death by the soldiers of the Azure Dragon Camp and Vermilion Bird Camp before being dragged over. These degenerates really tarnished the reputation of the 8 camps. The soldiers were filled with righteous indignation. Thousand Captain Li, please report to the chief examiners that this matter must be thoroughly investigated and severely punished. Before they could report it, a Meridian Passage Deputy General came over and announced, "Selected point examination suspended. Until it is clear who has committed favoritism and fraud, no one is allowed to leave. Examination suspended. Investigation underway." In just 2 sentences, like thunder crashing down upon their hearts. Favoritism and fraud? So someone really dared to cheat in the selected point. Who would have such audacity? Princely Air, looking at the formation set up on the high platform. Yin Han started to panic. Damn, the supervisor seems to be serious about investigating. This could spell trouble. When Chosher was equally nervous. Princely Air, this won't affect us moving forward, will it? When did I ever say that I tampered with the selected point? Why are you two panicking for no reason? How will you be able to fight wars with such little courage? Chao Fan was particularly calm. Don't worry, they won't find anything on me. And if anyone ends up in trouble, it will be Sun Xiangzong himself. He emphasized his words especially at the end. Yin Hanwen and Wen Chosher exchanged looks, finding his statement somewhat unbelievable. Sun Xiangzong in trouble. Who could cause trouble for such a renowned elder? He's old. Though only in his 20s, Chao Fan exuded a sense of being old and calculating. Targeting Chen Sansi is the goal but not the whole purpose. Do you think I am foolish to attract trouble during the selected point, unnecessarily complicating things for myself? This scheme was also meant for Sun Xiangzong. By merely agreeing to investigate, it's like jumping into a pit, sacrificing his reputation and jeopardizing his late career. Just watch. As someone of high status, Chao Fan wouldn't really be such a reckless heir, risking everything to take down a competitor who posed no significant threat. In this selected point, they had two main objectives. First, to obtain after victory the method to exceed the martial saint from Sun Xiangzong. Second, to infiltrate further into the 8 camps and dilute the power of the Sun family. Damaging his own reputation? Yin Hanwen, also from a high-ranking family, caught on quickly and realized the ingenuity. Princely heir, your plan is brilliant. It seems we are in for quite a show today. The others continued to whisper among themselves. What exactly happened? Such things have never happened since the inception of the selected point. Tampering in the selected point is equivalent to cheating in the imperial examinations. It's a capital offense. No one would escape. That's what's said, but it's not so simple. Those daring to cheat in the selected point must hold terrifyingly high positions. If that's the case, what will be the end of it? The crowd was buzzing with various opinions. Having no precedent, they also did not know what the outcome would be. If the person involved holds too high a position, would they really be executed? If not, wouldn't the credibility of the selected point plummet in the future? But then again, this selected point seemed to be the last personally selected by the supervisor. With almost everyone having heard rumors of the supervisor retiring to his hometown, coupled with the recent concessions in power, there was even a saying, is the old elephant sect still able to feed himself? So would today's incident just be overlooked? Who would want to offend a formidable figure just before retirement? No matter who it is, they must be executed if found out. Bai Tingji was as straightforward as ever. Otherwise, I'd rather not participate in such a selected point. He hadn't attended the military examination 2 years ago, opting for the selected point instead because it was said to be fair. It had indeed been so up until now. Even the mounts and weapons of everyone were ensured to be roughly the same, but to create such an issue at a critical moment. It wasn't just him. Warriors from all over came flocking, largely drawn by the reputation of Sun Xiangzong. This time, if a suitable solution is not found, it might dishearten warriors everywhere. This is getting big. Tang Inca had just heaved a sigh of relief, but his anxiety resurfaced. In his view, stopping here was the best outcome. Since everyone had already safely passed and were rated Class A, causing no substantial impact, it would be best to let things settle quietly. Continuing to stir the pot might not only bring no benefits but could also turn ugly. After all, the cheating involved the crown prince, a future sovereign, and the supporters aiding his actions could hold significant status within the 8 camps. It could even jeopardize the late career of the supervisor. Why bother? Sigh. This brother Chun, doesn't he know how to yield? In fact, Chun Sansi was more than accommodating, nearly prostrating himself. The other party wouldn't be satisfied until he acted like a dog. But what could he do? Really become a dog? If he continued to yield, would the other party let him go? No, they would only escalate things. Moreover, those refining internals, before dying, had demonstrated their true strength, likely witnessed by the examiners, who would probably handle it even without a report. Even if he could endure, it seemed the soldiers of the Azure Dragon camp couldn't, as they took the initiative to eliminate those responsible without being asked, taking the lead to complain. Something was amiss. Chun Sansi noticed that after the examiners announced the suspension of the selected point, Chao Fan's face showed no sign of panic, as if he had everything under control. Chapter 135 Martial Saint, what is it? _3. He glanced at the two people beside Supervisor Sun, perceiving the subtlety of the situation. A situation within a situation, and was it a blatant plot against Supervisor Sun? Under the watchful eyes of the public, 3 main examiners, surrounded by armored soldiers, arrived at the martial arts arena's high platform, seated themselves, and began to arrange for personnel to investigate with Azure Dragon, Vermilion Bird, and White Tiger's main generals joining the inquiry. Gentlemen, Sun Xiangzong stared ahead, his face expressing the indescribable. Do you also think that the investigation should be public and conducted in front of everyone? Investigate. We must investigate thoroughly, Mr. Ho angrily said. What audacity! Mr. Chun is a general personally appointed by the emperor. To dare to act so brazenly, it's utterly lawless. Governor Liu added. Mr. Ho is right, we need to clarify this. All right then. Supervisor Sun sighed. I was saying, let's quickly finish the investigation and not delay selected points time. I never expected you two to have such an upright side, insisting on making me investigate in front of hundreds of thousands of people. Naturally, Governor Liu, with an air of an incorruptible judge, said, if we don't clarify, it will be hard to calm people's hearts. Yes, Supervisor Sunday. Mr. Ho continued, after 2 years, when the selected point is held again, it will be presided over by us. If a scandal about selected point leaks out now, it won't be good for either of us. I hope the supervisor can set a final example for us. I am relieved you think this way. Sun Xiangzong, like an old man waiting for death in the sun at the village gate, said weakly. All right, then let's do it as you both wish. Investigate publicly and resolve it on the spot. Very well. I agree. Just moments ago, Governor Liu and Mr. Ho, who were hurling insults and nearly coming to blows, had suddenly united. The atmosphere was a bit subtle. Fourth brother. Bu Qi felt something was off. Shouldn't this matter be resolved quickly, the culprits caught swiftly to continue the selected point? Why make such a big scene? Because, Fang Qingyun said softly, they want to make it impossible for our master to step down. Since their arrival in Liangzhou, the court had appointed a governor and a supervisor, also switching the commanders of 3 of the 8 camps to court-affiliated people. What was the purpose? Nothing but to divide and ultimately control the 8 camps. But to truly achieve this, substantial prestige was needed. Not only did the prestige of the governor and the supervisor of the army need to be significant, but they also had to weaken Supervisor Sun's prestige. Only through this relative decrease and increase could further power be seized. Unconsciously, whether this case of corruption could be well managed had become pivotal, significantly impacting the 8 camps' future influence. Clearly, the instigator behind the scenes held a very high position. Under the gaze of thousands, should Sun Xiangzong fail to manage the situation well, his already declining prestige due to his age would further diminish, leading to an irretrievable loss of power. Following that, even if there were indeed an expansion of the army, the supervisor, the army supervisor, and the governor, possibly along with more people, would share authority, no longer dictated by any single person. Once Sun Xiangzong retired and returned to his hometown, the transition would be smooth with absolutely no turmoil, and the 8 camps would legitimately become the elite of the court. Ah? Bu Qi was shocked. What should we do then? Is my dad really going along with them, becoming truly senile? Even his own son felt unconfident. Over the years, the old man had allowed them to share power without a word, and recently had even agreed to transfer the last few brothers, fully preparing to retire from military life. Watch, Bu Qi, you've been protected too well from childhood, making you indolent and naive. I hope today's events will motivate you. Fang Qingyun said nothing more. I've been named to go investigate the case.
Buji luket utterly perplexed.
He tried to seek advice from other brothers, but soon discovered that his 2nd and 7th brothers, who had been nearby just moments ago, had vanished without a trace, leaving only his 5th brother Meng Guangxin still present. After an hour, 30-some officers and soldiers were escorted beneath the high platform, kneeling down. Master, Governor Liu, Mr. Ho. Fang Qingyun, sitting in a wheelchair, greeted with a bow. The overall situation has been clearly investigated. These men were temporarily drafted to cooperate with the 9 Palace 8 diagram formation. Each of the 8 camps had more than 10,000 men, but the 9-palace 8 diagram formation required at least 40,000 to be deployed, naturally necessitating the drafting of additional personnel from each camp to handle parts of the formation. Among them, the refining organ generals hidden within Du Gate, each 100 captain, were responsible for commanding and arranging their actions, currently presided over by 1,000 Captain Zhou Gungdao. These people, Fang Qingyun paused briefly before continuing, are all from Cloud Camp, under the direct command of General Ning Chongquan. Cloud Camp, of the 8 camps. Currently, there were 2 martial saints, one being Supervisor Sun's eldest disciple, Lu Ji, and the other was Ning Chongquan, appointed by the emperor as martial arts top scholar 30 years ago. Originally serving as the main general in the emperor's personal army outside the capital, Ning Chongquan was transferred to Liangzhou 3 years ago to take command of Cloud Camp and Sky Wolf Camp. When it comes to individual combat prowess, he was among the top 3 in the entire state of Liangzhou. On the surface, Governor Liu and Mr. Ho seemed dispatched by the court to oversee Sun Xiangzong. But in reality, Ning Chongquan was the true hand controlling military power. Chapter 136 Martial Saint, what is it? _4. His authority was even greater than the sum of those 2. Moreover, Ning Chongquan was skilled at training soldiers, having swept out all those who were dissatisfied, from deputy generals to commanders, within just half a year of taking office. Over the years, his reputation had soared, wholly comparable to that of Ji. Rumors were circulating everywhere. Once Supervisor Sun retired, it was either Ji or Ning Chongquan who would take over as supervisor, and since the latter was the martial arts top scholar directly appointed by the emperor, the likelihood was even greater. Nobody among the 10,000 could have imagined that the mess from nepotism would originate from the Cloud Camp. According to the official rules, this kind of incident, even the main general of the Cloud Camp would be implicated. But would a man soon to retire really dare to move against his successor? No, it wasn't about daring or not. It was simply impossible. Since this was the emperor's man, even if he were to be punished, it could only be a symbolic punishment, not a severe one. Yet if this matter was taken up only to be lightly set down, what that implied went without saying. Sun Xiangzong's prestige would be completely lost, and even if he regretted declining to retire, he would have no choice but to do so. Good move. Chun Sansi immediately guessed the intentions of this group. This game wasn't laid out by Chao Fan, but by the Crown Prince and the Emperor who had combined forces. He was just one part of it, or rather, because of his appearance, the plan had been slightly hastened. Even if he had not brought the issue to light today, these people would find other ways to force Sun Xiangzong off the stage. If the supervisor pretended to be deaf and mute, he would lose control over Liangzhou even more. Supervisor Sun looked at the soldiers kneeling before him and slowly said, "Where's Ning Chongquan?" "Here at your command." Ning Chongquan answered, stepping forward and folding his hands in salute. "I was completely unaware of this matter. Please feel free to question and deal with them as you see fit, Supervisor."
Zhao Gengdao.
Sun Xiangzong asked calmly, "Tell me, why did you do this?" "No need to say more," Zhou Gungdao resolutely said. "I did it. Kill or dismember me. I leave it to the supervisor to decide." "Young man, don't rush." The coarse-clothed supervisor Sun did not seem to be interrogating a criminal, but instead appeared like a friendly old man chatting. "There's always a reason for everything. Do you have a grudge with that young man named Chen? Or were you instructed by someone or perhaps coerced? Speak clearly, and you might not face death." Zhou Gungdao simply turned his face away as if he hadn't heard, closing his mouth and remaining silent. "How about you?" Supervisor Sun then turned his gaze to others. "Do you have nothing to say either?" Silence. 30 or so people all remaining silent. "Rubbish," Mr. Ho rebuked. "The commander is speaking to you? Didn't you hear him? Speak up. Do you all want to die? Speak out. And maybe you'll find a way to live." The silence persisted. The entire martial arts arena was dead quiet. Sun Xiangzong, the nominal highest military commander of Liangzhou and the founder of the 8 camps, found himself unable at that moment to even utter a word. The 30 or so kneeling people, all ready to die generously, showed not a trace of fear on their faces, nor any sign of respect. How audacious! Meng Guangxin burst into fury, picking up a crescent moon spade and rushing down. Have you tired of living, daring to show such disrespect to my master? Old 5. Fang Qingyun held him back, giving a sign with his eyes not to act rashly. Although he hesitated, he eventually suppressed his anger. The other direct disciples also had extremely grim expressions on their faces. Being ignored by the troops was a blow to prestige more severe than losing a battle. These men were all carefully selected. Sun Buqi remembered. They were originally brought from the capital city by Ning Chongquan. Of course they don't listen to my father. Isn't this just making my father look bad? In contrast, Sun Xiangzong's expression remained unchanged. No one wants to speak? Supervisor, don't blame us. Ning Chongquan spoke up. They have been with me for a long time, only recognizing my orders and not responding to others. Let me do the questioning. When the supervisor asks you a question, you answer. As expected, as soon as he spoke, responses started coming immediately. Response to General Ning. Zhou Gangdao, kneeling on the ground, his voice booming like a bell. We recently had a quarrel with that Mr. Chan, and found him displeasing. So we wanted to stop him from breaking through the ranks and ruin his future. Just for that. Ning Chongquan surveyed the others, asking sharply, is what he said true? Response to General Ning, indeed so. Ning Chongquan spoke with great authority. I ask you again, what kind of punishment do such actions deserve? Death penalty. We wish to atone with our deaths. Well said, you deserve to be killed. Crack. Ning Chongquan raised the mountain-opening axe and chopped off Zhou Gangdao's head. Just before his death, Zhou Gangdao didn't even blink, even proffering his neck for execution. With a single glance, a team of his subordinates came over, handing each kneeling soldier a Liangzhou standard yen feather knife. What are you waiting for? Do you all need me to act personally? No need to trouble the general. The soldiers hesitated not a bit as they picked up the yen feather knives. And, as if they had practiced countless times before, their motions harmoniously and uniformly slit their own throats, committing suicide. Blood gushed forth, and 30 or so men simultaneously fell, a pool of blood coalescing on the ground. What a command presence! At this moment, easily more than 10,000 people witnessed the scene. What kind of command presence must a commander have that allows for orders to be followed so faithfully, to die without even blinking, utterly akin to the legendary dead soldiers? Chapter 137, Martial Saint, what is that supposed to be? _5. All present were shocked and pale. What kind of commander could train such a force with willpower, an army composed entirely of dead soldiers? Even a housewife could understand the kind of combat power they possessed. Only the young Sun Xiangzong could have led his troops to such lengths. Yes, the young Sun Xiangzong. But now he had aged. 100,000 people witnessed it. Sun Xiangzong's commands were useless, but those of Ning Chongquan were effective. It truly was like the new waves of the Yangtze River pushing the old waves. One generation with its own heroes. Without a doubt, Ning Chongquan was the new Sun Xiangzong. Alas, the observers were not only the countless soldiers but also the high-ranking officials from the Northwest 3 states and even the capital city. None of them could do anything but shake their heads and sigh, lamenting the lateness of a hero. They didn't care whether the accusations against Chen Sansi were true or false. They only knew Sun Xiangzong was indeed about to retire, an irresistible trend that could not be stopped. Supervisor. Ning Chongquan turned around, cupped his hands and said, I have dealt with everything. When he spoke, he referred to himself as I instead of this commander. Throughout the handling of the entire situation, he hadn't asked the supervisor for a single piece of advice. It was a one-man show. Whatever he wanted, he did. How preposterous. I will go and slaughter him. Meng Guangxin nearly crushed his back teeth and was once again stopped by Fang Qingyun. Master, please say something. Meng Guangxin urged frantically. Sun Xiangzong, however, was very leisurely, leaning on the Taisher chair, rhythmically tapping the armrest, just quietly watching, like an old man immersed in watching a play in a theater without saying a word. Hee hee. Governor Liu clapped his hands excitedly. Look at the style of this General Ning, quite reminiscent of the young supervisor's son. Indeed, Mr. Ho echoed. The Lord Governor can retire in peace. With General Ning in the northern, who fears the barbarous thieves? If the expansion of the army and warfare commence next, our house could completely have General Ning serve as his deputy to effectively assist the Lord Governor. Your Highness, brilliant. In Hanwen and others finally saw clearly. With only the lives of some 1,000 captains and 100 captains, such great effect was created. Chao Fan revealed a confident smile. After today, the morale of the 8 camps would automatically crumble by half, reducing their troubles significantly. When his prestige collapses, after he wins the selected point, Sun Xiangzong would have to willingly hand over the magic skill above Martial Saint. Everything in the world would eventually belong to the Chao family. So very good. I also think letting General Ning be the deputy is an excellent idea. He can sharpen his skills while also helping share the Lord Commander's worries, said Governor Liu, feigning a stance. What does the supervisor think? However, just when everyone thought this matter had basically concluded, the long-silent Sun Xiangzong finally spoke up again. Good, very good thunderstrike tactics. Sun Xiangzong still rhythmically tapped on the armrest, speaking unhurriedly. Yet, Ning Changchuan, it seems I never ordered their execution, did I? After all, they are undoubtedly deserving of death. Ning Changchuan confidently said, I am taking care of it for the Lord Governor. There's no harm in that. General Ning. Fang Qingyun, pushing his wheelchair forward, slowly said, Your actions don't seem like sharing concerns but rather like someone who is in a hurry, afraid of accidents and rushing to silence people by killing them. General Fang? Ning Changchuan was taken aback. What do you mean by that? No meaning. Fang Qingyun's voice was cold. Even if it's not about silencing people, killing so many soldiers without the commander's consent, what should be the punishment? Moreover, if all of them served under you, General Ning, and if they were all sentenced to death, shouldn't the commander bear some responsibility? Ning Changchuan retorted, I said I had no idea. Whether you were aware or not isn't for you to decide. Fang Qingyun shouted, Old Tu, Old Qi, bring the man forth. At the same time as the words fell, 2 generals were escorting a deputy general into view. This person was Xin Chong, Ning Changchuan's deputy. Xin Chong, covered in blood, knelt on the ground. It was Ning Changchuan who ordered, and then I arranged it. What? The entire room was in uproar. Had Ning Changchuan truly killed all those people just to cover up his tracks? The respect he had just begun to garner collapsed entirely. Xin Chong, you. Ning Changchuan had not anticipated this scene, but he quickly responded, General Fang, we have no grievances or grudges. Why would you conspire with this despicable person to frame me? Am I that bored, targeting a minor refining organ general participating in the selected point? If it were really me, would my men willingly go to their deaths? That's because Xin Chong was severely injured. He had confined the families of those men, promising wealth and status if things went well, and threatening extermination if they failed. That's why those men were willing to die. Nonsense. Ning Changchuan was furiously thunderous. Are we supposed to believe you just because you say so? Well said, no evidence. The general known as Old Qi waved his hand. Bring everyone here. Russell. A group of armored soldiers, accompanied by a group of family members, came forward. Everyone, seeing the bodies on the ground, burst into loud wails. Fang Qingyun narrowed his eyes. What else do you have to deny? Ning Changchuan, you've put on quite a show. I haven't seen such an exciting performance for a long time. Sun Xiangzong spoke evenly. But tampering with the selected point and killing soldiers without orders, both are capital offenses. Chapter 138, Martial Saint, what is that supposed to be? _6. His tone and voice sounded no different from before. Yet Ning Changchuan felt an inexplicable pressure. Slander. Supervisor, Fang Qingyun is slandering me. He shouted to his family members. Tell everyone. Have I ever placed you under house arrest? Speak up. Woo woo woo. No, General Ning has never threatened us. The crowd kept crying, adamantly denying, clearly not daring to provoke the other party. Supervisor, I haven't lied, right? Ning Changshuan said. These brothers' wives would never say a bad word about me. I definitely haven't caused turmoil within selected point. As for those under my command, it is indeed true that I did not supervise them well. Am I not willing to accept punishment? Confinement, military caning? I'll take it. He looked at the scene before him, knowing that the trap they had painstakingly prepared for so long had probably been discovered earlier. Otherwise, how could they have gathered all the family members in such a short time? What do the two of you think should be done? Sun Xiangzong looked toward the two beside him, waiting for a response. Supervisor, Governor Liu hastened to say, this matter is no small issue, and those family members haven't identified anyone either. We can interrogate them in detail after going back. There's no need to rush to conclusions. That's right, Sun Dusher. Mr. Ho stood up and said, there's no need to be hasty. We can deal with this matter privately and slowly. Although it was completely unexpected that Sun had been prepared, they could still win. Even if everything about today's incident were exposed, it wouldn't matter. So what if everyone knew Ning Changshuan was the mastermind behind it all? Keep the matter quiet. At most, they would have to reassign Ning Changshuan elsewhere. Let the matter fade away, still able to undermine Sun Xiangzong's authority, proving that he could no longer ensure the clear distinction of rewards and punishments. What else could he manage in terms of military control? You both said it, in front of so many people, that today a resolution must be reached. How can you have second thoughts now? Sun Xiangzong stated indifferently, execute him. Not only Ning Changshuan himself, but even the others were shocked. The matter hadn't been fully verified, and they were going to execute someone? This was no ordinary person. This was the martial arts top scholar, the martial saint. The order given, Meng Guangxin, Old Tu, Old Qi, and a few generals eagerly gathered around. They had been unable to bear it any longer and were finally seeing their moment come. You can't kill him. Governor Liu's attitude became firm. Supervisor Sun, lacking proper supervision at most warrants demotion. How can you demand his life directly? Exactly. With the situation as it was, Mr. Ho similarly spoke, his voice carrying a threat. Mr. Sun, General Ning isn't someone you can just decide to execute on a whim. However, no matter what they said, the three main generals who received the order didn't stop in their tracks, even gripping their weapons in hand already. In the distance, there was the figure of another martial saint, Ji Lu, silently appearing with a heavenly halberd in hand. Governor Liu and Mr. Ho realized. This was real. They were going to kill him. Ridiculous. How many years, how many resources does it take for the court to nurture a martial saint? Not to mention a loyal, obedient martial saint. Supervisor Sun, you've gone mad. Governor Liu accused. You kill people indiscriminately without any evidence. Are you not afraid that the emperor will find out? This is the main general dispatched by the imperial army. Sun Xiangzong. Ning Changshuan brazenly tore off the pretense. Without sufficient evidence, you really have the guts to kill me? Do you know who I am? I am the martial arts top scholar personally appointed by the emperor in the 42nd year of Longqing. I am one of the few martial saints in the world. What gives you the right to kill me? Martial saint. Sun Xiangzong's finger tapping on the armrest abruptly stopped. In front of the tens of thousands, the old man couldn't help but laugh, causing everyone to be taken aback, somewhat at a loss, until the laughter came to an abrupt end. Top scholar, what is that worth? When Sun Xiangzong spoke again, he no longer sounded like a common old man from the neighborhood. Each word he uttered was laden with nearly a century of bloodshed. Each word carried the commanding authority of one who had led numerous soldiers and looked down upon the world. The tens of thousands present found themselves simultaneously struggling to breathe. And what is a martial saint worth? Ning Chongquan swallowed his saliva repeatedly to relieve the pressure in his heart. They all knew that Sun Xiangzong was not long for this world. But even so, this man on his deathbed had left him, a human martial saint, with a mind completely blank. Bluffing. Sun Xiangzong. After extreme fear came the urge for self-preservation, mustering all his strength. Ning Chongquan grasped the mountain-opening axe. If I remember correctly, it has been over a decade since you have personally made a move, right? It was all right for you to look down on martial saints in the past, but now, can you truly still defeat a martial saint? Or should I say, are you even qualified to be a martial saint? Yes. In everyone's memory, the last time Sun Xiangzong took action was 15 years ago. Over these 15 years, he had never shown his hand in front of others again. All anyone knew was that he was aging more and more, like a candle in the wind. Boom! Ning Chongquan's aura soared, and a terrifying force almost materializing around his body. The bodies of the soldiers who had committed suicide at his feet were pulverized under this power. Martial Saint, I want to see how much strength you have left. Meng Guangxin, Old Tu, Old Qi, and others were not martial saints but just at the profound image realm, and they were all repelled dozens of feet away by this force emanating from the martial saint. And the eldest disciple holding the heavenly halberd was still on his way here. Ning Chongquan arrived in front of Sun Xiangzong in an instant, and the mountain-opening giant axe in his hand cleaved down like a heavenly god. Shattering the stone platform, countless armored soldiers were sent flying. Governor Liu and Mr. Ho rapidly retreated to escape the place, as if the power to split heaven and earth would have the entire military camp, would split Liangzhou city in two. 100 meters around were engulfed by the gale. Everyone's ears rang incessantly. Their insides felt as if they could be smashed at any moment, and most were too late even to think of fleeing, until the old man in coarse hemp clothing had, at some point, produced a silver dragon in his hand. Then, the trees settled, and the wind ceased, and all returned to calm. No one saw clearly what had happened. They only knew that the entire body of Martial Saint Ning Chongquan was gone, surely devoured completely by that silver dragon, with only several segments of limbs mixed with flesh falling like rain, yet blocked by an invisible barrier around the old man's body. His coarse hemp clothing remained unstained, amidst the flying blood and flesh. He appeared like an immortal who had descended from the heavens, majestic and impeccable. At that moment, tens of thousands simultaneously recalled what the name Sun Xiangzong meant, remembered Supervisor Sun who had once single-handedly broken over 2,000 armors, remembered the Minister of War who died in the Imperial Palace, right under the Emperor's watch in the 57th year of Longqing. That minister was also a martial saint. That's right, he had grown old, but he was still alive. As long as he lived for another moment, he would always be that figure who struck awe across the world, that figure who for 40 years made countless barbarians tremble and not dare to encroach on the border, the peerless gun saint of the human realm, Sun Xiangzong. Chapter 139. Regaining Prestige, Qilin's Heart. A sudden incident that only lasted an instant was like a bolt of lightning on a clear day. After it ended, the sky remained cloudless. If not for the several pools of blood and flesh on the ground proving that something had happened, the tens of thousands of people would probably wonder if it was an illusion. Martial Saint. The Martial Saint. Not to mention in Liangzhou, even in the entire world, he counted as a formidable force. In front of this nearly 100-year-old elder, to not even be a match or to be precise, not even lasting one round or qualifying as an enemy, it was like crushing an ant. Despite not taking action for over a decade, despite being seen by everyone as a flickering candle in the wind, waiting for the day to be buried in peace, when Sun Xiangzong unleashed his thunderous strike at this moment, it was akin to a resounding bell toll in everyone's hearts, leaving them shaken and unable to calm down for a long time. Majestic. Supervisor Majestic. Within the military city, following a prolonged silence as if time had stopped, and after the shock, someone shouted a voice in the crowd that hadn't been heard in 10 years. The supervisor's divine might. Hurrah, 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 hurrah. This moment, 100,000 elite armored soldiers knelt in unison, their voices booming like thunder, reverberating through the entirety of Liangzhou City. This day, the aged Sun Xiangzong, by taking a martial saint's life, picked up the prestige he had once deliberately put aside and effortlessly reclaimed it. The court had intended to seize power with today's arrangement. And wasn't it also Sun Xiangzong making counter moves against the plan? From this day onwards, the rumor in the streets that old Xiangzong is senile, but can he still eat? Will probably change to old Xiangzong is senile, but is he plotting something? The supervisor's divine might. The cheering grew louder and louder, and did not stop for half an hour. Some of the older soldiers even cried with joy, eventually breaking down into weeping. Some of them had followed Sun Xiangzong since their youth. Now in their 40s or 50s, they had essentially followed him their whole lives. Until these recent years of silence, everyone had watched with their own eyes as the supervisor grew increasingly frail, managing military affairs less and less, as if he would leave them at any moment. It's no wonder everyone thought so. The reality was just so. If it had been before, how could Sun Dusher have allowed the existence of governors or military supervisors around him, let alone handing over 3 of the 8 great camps so easily? Doing so, wasn't he telling everyone that he was ready to retire and return home? Many could see that today's farce was deliberately making things difficult for the supervisor. If Sun Xiangzong didn't retaliate, raising his hand high only to let it fall gently, then they would have completely lost hope. But now, the soldiers realized that the supervisor was still the supervisor. These years, the supervisor was just taking a rest. Now that he has rested well, he is back. Under the influence of this atmosphere, officials from the Northwest 3 states as well as the capital city were nearly kneeling along with the rest, only to realize at the last moment that they weren't under Sun Xiangzong's jurisdiction, nearly committing a grave sin of overstepping their bounds. Ruined.
Cao Phan sẽ hớt xăng.
The trap they had meticulously designed turned out to be a pit they had dug for themselves. Although Sun Xiangzong's prestige had declined over the years, this incident caused it to soar back up, and now for the court to try and take over the 8 camps, the trouble would be enormous, not to mention they would ultimately have to look at the old man's face. Is this even human? Yin Hanwen and Wen Shoushi, among others, were still immersed in the brief confrontation. The martial saint. That was the martial saint. They didn't even see what happened and ended up as minced meat? No wonder so many martial arts geniuses from all over the world came to compete in Selected Point. Who wouldn't want to learn from such a person? That is the true martial arts saint. In Chao Fan's eyes, there was an intense yearning. To emerge victorious in Selected Point, he was determined to win. Blue energy. While the tens of thousands were shocked, Chun Sansi, through the Qi observation skill, noticed what set apart the martial saint from those above him. He witnessed with his own eyes. When Sun Dusher made his move, the energy that surged within him was the distinct Qingxian energy, strikingly different from everyone else's. No wonder the martial saint couldn't even withstand one move. They were fighting from different sources of power. How could one compete? Moreover, Chun Sansi paid attention to that long spear. Although it was just for a fleeting moment, that brief glimpse made him feel admiration for a weapon for the first time, far surpassing the Jinhua sword, and even felt that there wasn't a second spear of the same quality in the human realm. Besides, where did the weapon come from? He was certain that the supervisor had not carried any weapons, and nobody had delivered one at the time, as if it had appeared out of thin air. Chun Sansi looked more carefully. Even though Sun Xiangzong's clothes were patched up, only the bright silver thumb ring on his right thumb seemed to be of considerable value, an immortal item, perhaps. Sun Xiangzong. Lu Zhongxian called out his name. You've got some nerve. General Ning is the court-appointed upper pillar country. What right do you have to kill him? Supervisor. You're rather reckless in your actions. Mr. Ho regained his senses, pointing out with lingering fear. Aren't you afraid of the court's punishment? The petition for my crime was written in advance, and has already been given to Mr. Ho. Just hand it over to His Majesty, and I will take whatever punishment comes. In the blink of an eye, Sun Xiangzong had reverted to the appearance of an elderly man from the village entrance. He turned with a slight hunch in his back. Fourth, you weren't hurt, were you? Teacher worries too much. Fang Qingyun appeared calm. Was the petition already written? Mr. Ho took out the petition that the supervisor had handed to him before the start of selected point. Inside it talked about expanding the forces. Could it be that killing Ning Changchuan was also written in advance? What if today's events hadn't occurred? Chapter 140, Regaining Prestige, Qilin's Heart, _2. Ning Changchuan might die before the petition even reaches the capital city. Governor Liu and Mr. Ho exchanged glances, their minds drafting countless impeaching memorials. What on earth is Sun Xiangzong up to? All these years, this old thing has always cooperated in ceding power, but today he suddenly pulled this stunt. What is he really trying to do? Is he having second thoughts? Gentlemen. Sun Xiangzong turned his gaze back to them and began to speak slowly. This old man is actually helping you. If Ning Changchuan's chaos within selected point isn't dealt with seriously, how will you take over in the future? Neither Governor Liu nor Mr. Ho knew how to respond. Does this mean there are no second thoughts? To kill Ning Changchuan is to establish authority, to prepare for the upcoming battle against the barbarians? But isn't the cost too great? Marshal Saint, Supervisor Sun. Governor Liu mustered his courage and said, even if Ning Changchuan dies, someone from the capital city will still be sent to take over Cloud Camp and Skywolf Camp, and the military expansion and personnel arrangements should still be managed by the court and the Ministry of War. Oh, this old man has never refused you. There is no need to raise your voice so loudly. Sun Xiangzong hissed a breath and suddenly seemed to remember something. Mr. Liu, Mr. Ho, what do you think? Could Ning Changchuan have been under someone else's instruction? The atmosphere that had just begun to relax immediately dropped to freezing point again. Mr. Ho leaped up, gliding over the water like a dragonfly, landing 100 feet away before hurriedly saying, I know nothing. Even if there were, it has nothing to do with me. The imperial edict from Mr. Chun was still announced by me. How could I possibly harm him? He indeed had no involvement. But he could guess it was arranged by people on the crown prince's side. Mr. Ho, your Qinggong is quite impressive. Sun Xiangzong complimented, then looked towards Governor Liu. Mr. Liu, what do you think? Does Ning Changchuan have someone behind him? This official doesn't know. Liu Zhongxian's voice trembled as he also wanted to quickly distance himself. But as he turned, he saw Meng Guangxin and 2 other generals blocking his way. Supervisor, I really don't know, 8 or 9 out of 10 it was Ning Changchuan's own idea. He's a martial saint. Why would he need anyone else to manipulate him? He spoke incoherently, only to see the old man slowly walking towards him. Sun Xiangzong, what are you doing? It really has nothing to do with this official. After I go back, I can continue to help you investigate, help you clear this up. You don't come any closer. Don't be rash. Panic, fear, and guilt, a mix of emotions, became the driving force for self-preservation. Bang! Facing the large hand approaching from Supervisor Sun, Liu Zhongxian felt as if he saw a giant death character. His protective gang qi burst forth. His crimson official robe billowed. His official hat flew off, and even his hair stood on end as the marble floor beneath him shattered. He mustered all his strength to face the impending crisis. But his protective gang qi was as fragile as paper in front of that aged hand. Not to mention blocking it, it couldn't even slow it down. I really don't know. Liu Zhongxian stubbornly persisted, his eyes bloodshot, his voice even carrying a hint of a sob. Memories of his life flashed through his mind. How he practiced martial arts, started his career, gained recognition, climbed step by step to his current position as a second-rank official, and his family still in the capital city. Finally, the hand landed, unstoppable. At the last moment, Governor Liu felt as if his heart was ash. He withdrew his protective gang qi, closed his eyes, and waited for death to come. However, when the hand landed on his shoulder, nothing happened. It merely patted him gently twice as a calm, old voice sounded by his ear. Why so agitated, Mr. Liu? I did not say it had anything to do with you. Leaving behind that single remark, Sun Xiangzong walked away with his hands behind his back, his steps slow until he vanished from everyone's view. On the high platform, the second-rank official, having reached the Xuanxiang realm, expected to break through to martial saint within the next few years and entrusted with high hopes by the court, likely to take over the governance of Liangzhou in the future, Governor Lu Zhongxian stood there disheveled and extremely discomfited, motionless for a long time, his gaze blankly staring ahead, as if he had lost his senses. What a coward! Meng Guangxin scoffed. All these years strutting about, claiming to be some kind of hero. Thump! Governor Lu collapsed to the ground, gasping for air in great heaves. Finished! From a distance, Chao Fan couldn't bear to watch. The governor will be replaced. It's as good as being dead. What's the point of restraint in controlling the military forces now? Someone, come and take Mr. Lu down to rest properly. Fang Qingyun remained to oversee the situation. Gentlemen, although the person has been killed and the incident was sudden, there's still a great deal of matters to deal with, so selected point has to be suspended for one day. Those who haven't had their exams can go back and prepare well. Think about how to break the formation. You may all disperse now. Under the urging of the armored soldiers, people finally started to recover from the events and gradually dispersed.
Buji.
After most of the crowd had left, Fang Qingyun spoke to him alone. Do you understand now? I understand. Sun Buki nodded firmly. These people are trying to take my father's military authority. They lost, and they lost miserably. But why not continue the investigation? Why wasn't this Governor Lu killed? Is there still a need to investigate? Fang Qingyun smiled. Who did it was clear from the start. In doing things, one must know when to advance and when to retreat. As long as the goal is achieved, it is a win. Sometimes, being too ruthless can backfire. Killing Ning Changshuan was not an issue.